In a world that walks the line, there's a rare few who think outside the box together for the crew. To break the equations, not bound to any rule. Exposing to the world the universe's own view. It takes the talent of the craftsman, it takes the mind of the fool, to make the vision realize energy and matter in a duel. To a break, to a duel. The old man, bills was running through his head. Cheryl probably got it hiding under his bed. Penny up to Annie, making power for days. Don't listen to a word that the straight dope says. Mike building batteries that power a ship. Victor comes and talking math, that's the water spiral pip. Sean chucking plasma bolts a mile long. Sheila on the video making tones from the prongs. Burning, breaking matter, they said it couldn't be done. And to all the people in the chat, I know you're having fun. So it's time to spend your Saturday with the dope and old man Bills.
Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Nathan, otherwise known as Old Man Bills. Joe's going to stop in just a bit, man. He's got some stuff to go over, some cool stuff that he's been working on. I want to say thank you to my neighbor Paul. He came over and dropped off some grapes and some fruit for me, man. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Man, I got my Utron Tesla coil rotating and turned on, man. Yeah, I'll bring up the short real quick. It turned out pretty good. I had to thread a dowel to do it, but yeah, it worked out. Let's see, pull that up real quick. Yeah, take a look at this. It's on. You can see it's active. You can see the dowel running straight through it. The dowel's a bit wobbly. But it works, man. Tune's real easy too. The ZVS, man, makes this thing a dream. Just turns right on. You see all that flex in that dowel. Yeah, it's just a low speed, Ben, but you know, we'll pick it up a little bit. Maybe we'll change it to straight up and down. It's not going to matter for how this thing's put together. So, yeah, it should work out. Pretty cool. You don't see that every day, huh? We'll have to put some magnets and stuff around it, do some cool stuff. But yeah, it turned out pretty good. Right on, Paul. Thank you. What's going on, guys? Oh, man. Sorry about the timing, guys. My son told me this morning he had to go into some work thing, some clinic thing, so he can get a job. So he went over to one of these warehouses, and he's going to be in there all day. So, well, I don't, you know, whatever makes him happy, man, get him a job. I'm all for it. So got him down there, can earn some money. So yeah, it's about time, huh? Because that's what every parent says, it's about time. Oh man, I got some other cool stuff, guys. Check this out. Oh, I got this today for the RAV. It's the power supply that Sean said to get. So it finally came in today. So I'll be setting that up tomorrow morning and running the RAV with it. So I did some testing with the RAV today without it. And let me tell you, man, if you don't have that anode rounded, it's not going to work properly. I tried to shave it and file it down, and it told me no every time. It needs the rotation. When I added more water into the bowl, you could see the rotation going like this in the bowl. So it kind of told a story of what was going on. In order for it to start, it needed to initially rotate. So it had to have that flat bottom on the rounded rod. Any other thing, it didn't want to do it. So yeah. When I tune the RPM of that of the Utron, I'd like to get it up higher. That dial is just like this all over the place. So I could probably bring it up, probably a couple hundred more mile an hour. After that, that thing's probably a death trap. Probably fly across the room and stick me. Um, but yeah, I mean, we would like to get it to go faster. Next time I design one of these things, I got to make the center part a little bigger. That way we could put something in there that's sturdy. Because this right here is like a 1/4 inch, and 1/4 inch is not very good. It's very flexible. So I think on the next one, we might use a 1/2 inch or something like that, and then we'll be all right. Nice. Very good. Johnny's working on stuff, man. Getting more power. Love more power, man. Love putting power into these things. Hmm. I did that all the time when I was chasing that spark gap to see how big I can get it, man. Yeah, the dual voltage multipliers. Yeah, on the AC, that was awesome. Yeah, did that one. That worked out pretty good. Did the single one. That turned out pretty good. Ran it positive and negative. So yeah. What's up, Sean? Take a look, buddy. Got it in just like you said. So you said there's something I have to get in here and change, probably 220 to 110. So hit me up later and we'll take a look at it. But we got that in there today, man. So, and like I was saying earlier, man, that anode had to be circular, or else this wouldn't work because it rotates in water. I was watching it. I put water in there too heavy and turned it on anyway to see what happened. The water was swirling. If you get it to contact the bottom of the pan, it'll turn the pan itself. So that was a pretty cool trick. Nice. Yeah, we got some cool stuff, man. Hopefully you saw that video I sent you, Sean, on the Utron spinning, man. I got that thing spinning, Tesla coils on, bipolar Tesla coil. All that energy, man, is breaking out right there. It doesn't need any kind of sparks or anything like that. It'll build out in DC just fine. If we wanted to put AC into it, then we'd have to do a lot more work in order to get it to spin and do that. But I'm not willing to go there. We don't need to. We'll just run it in DC. That's probably what the whole thing's going to be for anyway. And then we'll go on to a next geometry coil. But I'll do a video on this one next. Sean says the best power supply unit. Can't wait. Nice. Yeah, the other ones, man, they work fine. It's a little more tuning. I was doing them this morning and tuning them. So I had my ZVS out there. I had my cap bank out there. I had both of them running at the same time. The hardest part is if you don't have enough heat in your system initially, it's really hard to get this thing started. So I ran into that. It was like hours of not getting this thing started this morning. And then finally it gave in and gave it to me. But yeah, there's some cool stuff to go along with it, man. Let me pull this up. I pulled some pictures yesterday. And I don't know if these are accurate or not. I don't know if anybody knows this, but I wanted to show it anyway. Somebody had taken the periodic table and they're putting the elements in this thing all in a circular form. So you see the center right here, and then it builds out from there on exactly what's in it and then the next layer, next layer. Now, I have to verify if this is accurate or not, because it would be very, very interesting to find out that it is or isn't. And then, are the dividers in there that way because that's the way they want them in there? Is that because there's a split in the atom itself? I mean, I don't know, man. It seems really interesting though, because we're seeing some of this stuff as we build the RAV. We're seeing different colors come out of it. We're seeing different things being lit up. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. I mean, if this is true, it changes the nature of our atoms, doesn't it? I mean, if we can verify this, I think there's a project out there just working on this type of thing right here. You could see that they're putting the geometry in there too. You can start to see the flower leaves in it in each section that you're looking at. Each one of them has it. So they're doing some good work here, whoever this is. I want to verify what's going on, if this is it or not. Hold on. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Well, it does make a lot of sense in the fact that as we build out these RAVs, we're not finding a center point. We are finding different colors, different temperatures, different layers, which makes you wonder if this is 100% accurate. So, I mean, only time will tell, and we'll be able to see which way it goes from there, man. But this was definitely intriguing, so I definitely had to put it up. Yeah, there's a couple more, man, and they're kind of the same thing a little bit, but a little bit different. Now, take a look at this one. And the reason I wanted to look at this one is you see what the regular image on the bottom part, and then the upper part around it is like the 4D image Joe was showing, the fourth dimensional image. So is it accurate or not? Again, I can't tell you, but it's interesting that they would come up with something like this based on what we're seeing in our RAV experiments. So, and again, they're building it out based on centrifugal circles, man. They just got a bunch of circles around here. Exactly what we're seeing in that image, but we know that they're 360 degrees in there, or a little bit in, a little bit out when you get to the how you build it like this. But yeah. Kind of crazy, man. How you find this stuff when you go looking for it. And then there was another one. We had that little RAV guy that came out, and I want to show you this one. Oh, now it's messing with me. Okay, here we go. And it's because of the relationship that it had. We saw that it broke apart from the main one, and then we see it going over to a secondary one. So are we seeing half the picture here or none of the picture? Or is this even right? It's pretty interesting just how they make up different colors and things like that. And then what they represent as they do it. And then they have like a two RAVs situation. So this is pretty interesting, man. So I'm looking more into this, see if I can't find the paperwork on it so that we can find out who's doing this stuff. What's going on, Limited State, man? Miss your doggy. Okay. Sorry, I'm reading the comments, and yeah, I'll show you real quick. This is what Joe is going to talk about a little bit later. And it has to do with the alpha and omega. and the Aachen, stuff like that, but it also has to do with sacred geometry. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting, man, when he gets in here and starts talking about this. He sent me this. It's just a lot of information to process at one time. So, when he gets here, man, it'll be pretty cool. They absolutely challenge how you think about the periodic table. I mean, what's going on, Andrew? Yeah, we think of it one way, but that's not how things are building out. It's strange. It's not like we would see an atom or anything like that. It's just that when we build out things like the RAV, and when you start seeing immediately they start going into a geometry structure as soon as you have them in there. And don't get me wrong, we're coarsening it. We're getting the rod and the stuff's going around the rod like that, and it's circling at the bottom. If you put water under there, you can see it twirl the water. We know what it's doing, and then it builds out to a 3D structure that's doing the same thing. It's just, if you get that in a periodic table, man, and they're saying, okay, the elements built out that way, and compression, non-compression zones, and then saturation zones, that really change how things are. And, not so much we know which weights, which things would go one to the next. That part's pretty easy. That's not going to change. It's just the envisionment of how it works, because now the geometry is different. How you see this thing is different. And ultimately, how you go to build the next step would be different. So, yeah, moving forward in science. Yeah, spinning backwards sometimes. Sometimes we just spin our wheels, man. Yeah, Joe's gonna come on and explain that, man. That thing is there's a lot there, man, because it has to deal with some kind of winding pattern that most people would think of as far as wellness kind of thing. But then it starts to tie into more, and that's where it gets kind of weird, man. It starts tying into everything. There's number patterns in it, multiplication, addition, all this kind of stuff in there. Yeah, it really is an interesting subject. So yeah, I can't wait for Joe to come on later and show that. He said he would be around in the second hour, man. It's gonna be a little bit before he gets here. Hopefully that by then they'll be done running that dryer so I can turn on my air again. People have no sense of timing. Oh man. Let's see. I wanted to show this. Now check that out. What's interesting in this is you see the sun in the center, and that it's being vortex at some point. We're hurling through our galaxy here, but it's interesting the shapes that each planet makes. I don't know if you guys ever seen anything like this, but each time the planet goes, it has an orbit, right? Well, where does the orbit go in? Where does it go out based on where the sun wobbles, right? Well, you're seeing it in something like this when they show you the geometries of it, and then it starts to make sense, doesn't it? You start to see how they tie in to everything in the astronomical calendar, everything. You get a full picture of what we're seeing. It means that no matter what we do, we're following some kind of sacred geometry structure in this world. And it's all laid out, even in the planets and everything else. So I found this one is kind of interesting, man. It's crazy because people think we're stagnant in the universe, right? So, I mean, let's just put it this way: if they're moving around like that, that's frequency all day long. That's resonance and frequency, man. That's patterning. They're already doing it. That's probably why things are working when we get to them on certain numbers, because the planets are already doing them. That means that the sun's putting them out that way. That means that everything had an alignment going in, down the line. All the planets were aligned, all the understanding of the frequencies that are going on in the resonance is understood. They really knew it. they really had it down to what it was. So I just find that kind of stuff interesting, man, because we're hitting through this real bad zone where things are starting to come into our solar system, and it's not going to stop. We got two objects now. I don't think it's going to stop whatsoever. It's a misunderstanding of science to say, oh, these things just came from dark space and then they came into our solar system like we didn't know they were coming, or that we couldn't figure out where they came from. At some point, there was some kind of planetary system somewhere that met its doom, and we're getting debris. And we're getting debris every time we come around this way. Every time there's a cataclysm in our solar system because of this garbage. And I think, you know what? We got to start recognizing it so we do something about it. It's like time to prepare. Like, and I don't mean prepare shelter or nothing like that. I'm saying that they got to get off their butts and find some kind of weapon to destroy these things as they come into our solar system. Because as soon as you start messing with anything in here, then when you bring a sufficient mass, man, we could be in real trouble. Because it doesn't have to hit your planet, it just has to fly closely by it. It has to fly closely by another planet, and then boom, chain reaction to us. We're all entangled to that sun. You know, no matter how you want to see it, we are entangled to that sun. So if something screws with it, we all pay the price. So yeah, we got to get some defense out there, man. I'm glad they created the Space Force. I'm glad they're going forward with that stuff. I know there's a lot of people that don't believe in that stuff, but man, I'm glad they're doing it. At least they're getting something out there. So Sean says he sent me some rad diagrams he created yesterday. Well, let's take a look. Yeah, give me a second to pull it up. Okay, I know where this one's going. All right, give me a second. So these are the RAV diagrams that Sean came up with right here. The merging, the burst, and the orbiting. Wow. That's cool. You put two RAVs on the same clay? We didn't see that one, Sean. I'll tell you what, the ones on the merging side look like a pair of boys on there, man. Wow. Well, send us an image if you got it, Sean. I'll put it up for you. I tried to get two going, man. I haven't had luck yet. I've put them together on there, split the anode. Didn't turn out the way I thought it would. Not yet. Yeah, exactly what I'm seeing. Except for these are plasma, so the plasma balls. You sent me 6 diagrams. Okay, there's more. All right. Ooh, let's see what we got here. Let's see. Step 1 is the streamer. 2 is the breakdown phase. Okay. Gas sheath goes over it. Okay. Streamer program. Okay. Impact ionization. I've seen that in the testing. Okay, plasma channel. Seen that. Yeah, I've definitely seen all these in the way it works, that's for sure. Let's see. Reactive. Nice. Charting it out. Partly submerged in the clay. Researching the best clay for the Ravs. Yeah, there's a little bit of water in there. I've seen that. And it burrows through it. That's for sure. But it definitely has a positive anode there. It's the top wire coming down. There we go. Get a null zone right up above it. I've seen that. Huh. Got terracotta, you got brick. Okay. I haven't used the brick at all. Oh, here's the 3 speeds. Or 3 man, they're real close, huh? 4 kilohertz difference. Interesting. That would surprise you? That doesn't surprise me. So we see them in rotation. So I got to ask you, when you see it this way, are you thinking like Jupiter? How you get the rings on each one? Is that what you're thinking this is? Hmm. Kind of reminds me of how Earth breaks out. If you get the different layers of it, you get the top layer, the bottom layer the same, then the strip in the middle that's hot. Yeah, when you're going through an ice age or something like that, that makes a lot of sense. Huh. See if there's any more in there real quick. Oh, there was one. Nope, that wasn't it. I wanted to show you guys this. This has nothing to do with anything. I just thought it was ironic that it would make this. So it's flipped. But when his plasma starts to go into the Rav form, it looks just like that part of your brain, man. I know it's just us seeing it, right? And it's not something that it's actually doing for that reason. But I thought it was a really cool image, man. That that exact thing was showing up in your brain the same way. So I thought that was pretty neat, man. Yeah, well, you're striping the stuff. So if you're striping it, then it's like our planet or like Jupiter, it's all in stripes. If you're saying that's the way it's going and that's what you're pulling out of it, then yeah. Interesting, man. Interesting. I knew it tells stuff about the universe. It has to. You got to remember everything in there has energy in it, and we're just exposing it. So whoever took electrical theory or whatever that theory was, the electrician or whatever they called it, and they tried to debunk that, well, I guess they're all kind of wrong now, huh? Wow, those people actually knew what they were talking about the whole time, and you had to just listen. So that's going to get added into our big thing. I'm sure it is. Oh man! And then when they figure out how powerful resonance actually is, it'll start to make sense. They used to think when we turned the century that resonance was going to be the key to everything, and then physics kind of died out on it, and it's going to make its way back because they keep proving that it's something big. Okay, Joe sent me updated images and stuff like that. Cool. Let's see. Fastest at the equator because it has the greatest distance from the center point. Centrifugal force is greatest there. That makes all the sense in the world. Nice. Let's see. They have motion and that kind of motion, gas versus not and more. Yep. Fascinating. Nice. But yeah, it's following a particular pattern in it. We're all following a particular pattern in this thing, man. And every time we go to define it, it tells you a little bit more. I do want to see that video shot if you got it with the two of them together. I think that would be really interesting. Nice. Yeah. Oh my God, dude, it's getting hot in here. This thing is boiling. Wow. That stupid dryer, I swear. I'm going to put one of those switches in there, man, that shuts off the electricity to that thing and put a lock on it. You know what I mean? Like one of those safety things. So when you work on something, you just turn off the breaker and they can't get in there to mess with it. Yeah, that's about what's going to happen here because I'm about done with this. I've had about enough of them playing with that dryer. They say, "Oh, I'm going to do laundry for a couple times, man." They turn around and then I don't know. It's like 20 loads later is what it feels like. It's like, dude, I'm boiling in here. So we're in like California hot season, man. It's like 102 outside the last couple of days. It's been bad. Yeah, I'm not gonna sit through this forever. I'm gonna go turn that thing off. Yeah. Some of this stuff, man, people like common sense. Oh, let's do laundry. Maybe you should do it at night. Yeah. Yeah. Do not operate. Oh, I'll make sure it's non operational. Yeah. They're gonna put me through more work. They haven't figured it out yet, man. You make me work, I'm gonna take it to the nth degree and then you're done. Okay. You don't want to do that. Oh well. All right. I'll get up when Joe comes in, man. Yeah, but I started up the Rabs today, man. I was trying to get them going on two different ZVSs, two different flybacks. I got them to tune just fine, sitting next to each other. So you get one going and the other one going, and they tune. It's taken a while to get those things started, though, man. Something is different. It's probably the heat out here. There's not a lot of moisture in the air and there's a ton of heat. Where when I first did it, there was more moisture in the air. Now we're in California dry heat, man. It's like the desert out here. So it might be messing with how these things are forming. I'd be interested to see. I should probably put up those little things in my garage to see exactly what the temperatures are and how much humidity there is. Because there's not a lot of air in this, excuse me, there's not a lot of water in this area at all. It's dry. Two red videos aren't ready yet. All right, that's cool. Yeah, they probably would. God knows I can cook an egg outside. I'd just put it in the pan on the ground, man. It'll cook. Oh, yeah. I don't know what it is, man. I just know I had trouble this morning. It literally, I was starting them up last time, first 10 minutes to get the first one going, then go for a while. Now it's taking longer to start it, and I have to use more energy production to get the thing going. So yeah, not enough moisture in the air. Yeah, make an environment chamber. That might be right way to go. You're absolutely right on that. Ooh, Western Australia. Yeah, I could see that. Hmm. Wow. Okay, should read that before I put it up. Okay. A lot of stuff that YouTube would not enjoy seeing. Okay. Yeah. An old fish tank. Yeah, that probably work out, huh? Have to find some way to get your hands in there so you can manipulate things. But yeah, I guess if you set it and then seal it, you might be all right. I wanted to do that for a bigger project, so that we can test out a Tesla coil in there with water underneath, and let it get a little bit of humidity in there where you can start to get it where you can burn off some of the water and it goes back up, and see if you can't get some kind of clouds going up there with some, maybe a coil or something on the top. But I haven't found a good fish tank candidate for that. Oh, issues of clay. Well, it is pretty dry and it heats pretty fast. Yeah, that's what I was getting today. The plasma would swirl forever. Yeah. No, what it is there's an evaporation rate, but when it's so hot in here, it's evaporating faster. The heat comes into the clay faster. I noticed that the more power you give it, the less it wants to form. It wants to be about 15 volts and get down to 9. It's where it likes to be on what I'm using. And anything above that, it does not like it. It is not liking the higher temperatures in it. So, at least to start it anyway. Once it's formed, then you can go bigger on these. It all depends on your equipment. But it doesn't do well with the breeze coming by it with a fan. There's a whole bunch, man. These things are temperamental. I thought it was so easy, man. I started my first one, got it going, worked out great. Nope, temperamental, just like everything else. Hmm. Wow. All right, give me a second. I got to make sure that dryer's off, man. This is inhumane. All right, cool. Sorry about that. Turn on the air now. What happens there, man, is it starts popping breakers if we have them on at the same time for too long. So you kind of have to say, "Hey, I'm turning this thing on." You know what I mean? Kind of thing. Well, it's a wiring issue, and I didn't have the couple $1,000 for California to upgrade it. At least not yet. That'd be interesting to find out. So the Rav's female? I have no idea. I That's a question for Joe. Hmm. Oh, nice. Goatee Elon. Hmm. Let's see. Yeah, say yeah. Okay. Mostly correct, but the Earth is just a bigger version. Yeah. Grootty. Oh, you're not getting that one right at all. Anyway, no, that's cool, man. So yeah, we're gonna investigate that, man. If there's some papers on that, I'll bring those out on that periodic table because it being in rotation, man, makes a big difference. So for those who weren't here earlier, I'll pull it up one more time. We were looking at this right here. Let's see. Now again, I don't know if this is fully accurate, but if it is, if it's building out like the RAV. Huh. Just interesting, man, that they would think the same way that what we're thinking, but different experiment altogether. So I'd imagine they're not building RAVs over there. So they're really cool. Hmm. Well, I'll tell you what, man, the water definitely drains clockwise. Um, Not drains, but goes down that way. I was watching it today. That thing definitely is going clockwise, at least on mine. It was you put the water too high in there next to that anode, and you'll just see it swirling. You get the thing go over the side of your little clay and touch it, it'll start spinning the actual pan. So I had that happen to me today too, several times. I was able to change the capacitance in it as it was already formed. So once it formed, as soon as you started clicking the capacitor bank, you could see it grow a little bit and shrink a little bit because I changed the amount of frequency that's in it. As soon as I hit the cap, man, it changed the frequency a little bit. Change it again, change it again. So it definitely works in tuning, man. It definitely works that way in tuning. So we can always apply the frequency at the front side and just use a trigger switch to do that if we wanted to in these things because it's on that ZVS. But I like that cap bank because I like to control the capacitors in there and see exactly how much is in there. So yeah, putting those on there, man, worked out good. Yeah, right on, man. Yeah, a lot of testing to do tomorrow, man. A lot of testing to do tomorrow. I got to get, if Sean's already got the two RAVs on one, man, then I need to do the same thing. So nice. Try charged water versus non-charged. That could be something. I haven't tied tungsten at all. We just been using the stainless ones Sean recommended, and so far I haven't had any loss on the ends of them. So, and the heat's pretty high, so I don't know if tungsten will hold up, but it should. Let's see. Are you tuning the spark gap through the clay pot? So no, there's no two anodes. There's a cathode on the bottom. It's connected to the tray that it sits in, the little pie tin. On the top, you just have the anode. So it's like definitely an anode cathode reaction. There's no getting around that. It's the fact that they're in resonance together, so it acts like it's in resonance. That's why it's doing what it's doing. If it wasn't doing that and they were off frequencies or something like that, like really bad, this thing wouldn't do anything. So it has to be in resonance. So that's one of the things it's doing there. And they build out in different levels. So, but there's definitely that relationship there as it builds out. That's for sure. And it burrows right through the clay. I'll be honest with you. I've seen this thing in a hot reaction. It's burrowing right through the clay and it is only leaving carbon behind. There's no metal in there, no magnetism in any metal in there. It's just a carbon layer that it leaves behind, but it needs something like that to trigger it. The reaction is what I'm noticing. Now I went ahead and I drilled the clay a little bit to see if I can get the reaction started faster, and it doesn't like it. It avoids it like all the time. It's looking for its very specific spot where it can take that outer layer and the inner layer and form them together and change them. It's kind of looking for a little bit of transmutation going on there in that area. In whatever way it's happening, that's what's going on. So, yeah, whatever that reaction is causes something to change in the bottom, and then it, boom, it triggers right away. It's just, boom, it's there. So, yeah, it's really interesting how this thing's working out, man. And we're all kind of going in different directions right now. Sean's been working with it the longest. I'm still trying to get the camera shot right on it so that we could see all the imagery in it. Because I don't think we tapped it all yet. So right on. What's up, Gerald? Everybody saying hi. Right on, man. Right on. Yeah, we're all kind of getting to the same point, man. They're all creating circular patterns. So I guess that's what this thing's going to do. Create the circular pattern in there, build out just like that. I don't know, where we go from here. Sean says he's got two boys together, you know what I mean? And how they're working. I've yet to achieve that. I can't get them in there and get them close enough. Hopefully I can have that soon. And then I'll be right there with everybody else. It's different. We're taking a different approach, man. The tuning's already done in this thing here. So when I put it in there, it's going to be self-tuned. And it'll be real easy. The hard thing is, man, is tuning them on the fly and seeing what the reactions are and what it does to everything. Because that's going to tell just as much of a story as if it was perfect. So there's going to be rules and guidelines on how this thing will build out, and I have to define it. Oh, let's see. RAV comparison water table. Okay. Let's see what that's about for. Okay, that's going to be a little bit hard to see. Nice. I'll take a look at that later, Sean, and find out a way to blow it up so we can all see it. They're not going to be able to read that. So, well, okay. Hit that button again. Okay. Sorry. Trying to read and direct things right now. Cool. Yeah. Some of this stuff, man, when you get too much water in there, all it does is boil. So it won't allow the reaction to take place. It'll just boil. I've had that happen a couple times. I had the garage smell like burnt everything today. That happened. Yeah. That was not fun. He's testing the RAV with different lasers. Yeah. Well, the thing almost blinded me today again. I think there is lasers coming off of it, man. We're getting a lot of light, and I mean a lot. And it'll give you blind spots. That's how bad it is coming off this thing, man. It'll definitely give you blind spots. Right on, Pete. That water goes away in that tray. It doesn't stay there. But once you get this thing started, it really only matters what you got going in it. I don't see any water being pulled from the tray or anywhere else. So sorry, I gotta answer this. Oh, let's see. Yeah. I think laser protection, eye protection is what it's gonna take. I ordered a set of glasses for it because we're getting way too much light. Way too much. Like way beyond like what I normally get in a welding helmet. And it's way too quick. I burnt my eyeball several times without a welding helmet, so trust me, I know. But yeah, definitely need some eye protection. Something's got to take this thing down because looking at it, you'll never see anything but a big bright light. Even that, when you do your pictures, it might be good to have a little, you know what I mean, like a laser shield like this to put in front of the camera. Yeah, yeah, they put those cotton, feels like cotton balls in your eyes when they inject that liquid in there. I know it's not cotton balls, but it feels that way to me every time that they do it. Yeah, I've gotten stuff stuck in my eyes a couple times. Got a 5-watt blue laser. Right on. Yeah, metal fragments suck worse than anything. Anything that goes in your eyes sucks. Wow. Yeah, so we're getting those going. Like I said, the Utron coil, I'll show that for everybody who wasn't watching earlier. I got this thing spinning and running, man. Utron Tesla coil. I have it active right now. The cool thing is it's bipolar. So now I'm just going to spin it. Look at that. That's just cool. Wanted to show everybody my Utron Tesla coil. I have it active right now. The cool thing is what's up, Joe?
Hey, what's going on, dude? All right.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all right. I didn't have time to number all that shit because I was too busy making it, trying to like whatever. So we'll just kind of go through it the best we can, I guess.
Yeah. So
Oh, did you lose me?
No, I hear you.
No, fuck. I think I might have nuked my shit though. Hold on. Let's see. Oh no, I could see now on here. Yeah, so I didn't number the stuff because I took too damn much time making it because I wanted to make it like as good as I could. So I don't know. We'll have to, you know, go through it somehow, and I'll just be like skip, and we'll get back to it or something, as far as what slide. But I tried to make them the long ways, you see, right? I tried to make them the long ways so they fill up more of the screen, because it seems like when they're up and down like that, that the format doesn't fill up a lot of the screen,
Yeah. Give me 1 second. It's clicking me through the same ones. So let me just find the right one to start with. Well, let's just start it here. We'll just go from this. Hold on. And of course, right there. Is that where you want to start, Joe?
Yeah, we could start with that and just kind of explain it, then show how it like kind of links in. I did send my computer a StreamYard link to see if I were to join on my computer, if I could share my screen. But I don't know if my work computer is going to let me. We'll see.
Gotcha.
No, it's not going to let me. But I do have the photos that I can look at and reference on my computer, so I'm not sitting there like this. You know what I mean? So,
well, I'm just going in the way you send them to me. So,
okay, I think I sent them to you in the logical order of it to a certain degree. To a certain degree. Yeah, so we could start with that. By the way, you see where it all keys up, dude? There was an over, right? You see where the alpha goes over that hieroglyph on the left? That's talking about the son of Ra, eternal life, right? And then you see what's there is those plants, right? And those plants, they key up also. Everything with this hieroglyph on the left keys up with the alpha omega. Okay, and the flower is growing out of the water. Okay, and the flower is a lotus. So it's all stuff. But what I was explaining is that what this shows is that once you have those two counter-rotating vectors and you get your third, okay, if you actually re-vector your third one, okay, toroidally but in at each other in an inverse way. So you know how it has the center? If they're inverse centers, what ends up happening is you get a ground state in the middle. That is your null zone, but it's like an expanded null zone.
Okay.
It acts like a directional valve because it's upper dimensional. It's not 3-dimensional. Okay, but it works like a one-way valve. So you have the center toroidal flow in the middle. All right. Now, once you take that as your third vector and you bring that flow back into the system the way that it shows, which is the top arch of the Ankh, taking the center toroidal energy, redistributing it from the 4.5 mark to the 4 and the 5.
Okay, hold on.
It recycles through the system.
So give me a second, because you're going into stuff that's not really on the screen right now. How about that?
Yeah, so that is a part of the equation before the Ankh is added in. So that's actually good, but that's before the Ankh is added in. So you can see how it creates that third vector between the 9 and 4.5. Okay. Now, if you redistribute that vector out back toward the 4 and 5, you're putting all the central energy that comes off that pulse, that comes off the pulse vector of 9, 4.5.
Okay.
And you're adding that back into the system. then what it does is it follows that line up, but those are the lines that intersect at the point of the 4.5. So you have the 4.5 separate of the 4 and the 5, okay, riding up in resonance to the point where of the interaction in the first place, the 4.5. There, it's a counter flow, and that's the valve. What ends up happening is all that energy coming down through the torus, okay, now comes in at basically like a 45-degree angle to recoalesce, except from the opposite direction. That interaction fucking makes a scalar vector that goes out, right?
Mm.
And that's the cross of the A, okay? Which is also the cross of the Ankh, the same cross, okay? Then it follows the peak of the A back up to the 9 to do it again, because it collapses when it reaches the 3-6 pulse. So what ends up happening is that it ends up riding the 3-6 pulse up, because the 4.5 falls in the middle of the 3 and the 6 also. You see, it's the middle of the whole thing. That 4.5 is the middle of the whole thing. So it ends up following it up and then coming back to the 9 to recycle out. Now, when you double it and you mirror it, that's when the well is created. All right. So when you say mirror the Ankh, infinity loop, this, that. So that is unmirrored.
Okay.
Okay.
I see the image rotated behind it.
Oh, you know what? It is mirrored. It was just hard to see on my phone in that lighting, the way that it is. But yeah, you're correct. It is mirrored behind it like that. So you see where you have those 2 orange or brown dots, sort of like right above the 9 and what looks like a B, top and bottom. Those are your 4.5s. So you have a line just above and beneath that. That whole entire null zone, okay, is the well. That's the tank. That's the area that holds the capacitance, okay? And it holds the capacitance in, and that's what creates the ground state. So basically what it means is that when you have these 2 inverse toroidal flows going at each other, okay, what you end up doing is you could pick up the energy as it's at that 4.5 mark just before it interferes with itself. Okay. So before it blasts off into that scalar vector, you could actually tap right off of that, because rather than go back in the well at that point, you could take it, use it, it'll fall into resonance with the system, which this system is isolated at this point because locality is broken. So you don't have any inefficiencies in whatever you're utilizing that energy for. You don't have hysteresis space because there's a separation of all the differentials in this. So for everything that happens, there's automatically an opposite thing to offset it. Okay. So what it ends up doing is it allows you to use it off the tap. Okay. Like a hose dumping into a bucket. You're just picking it off the hose before it goes into the bucket. But here's the fucking thing. You have to return it the same way you would in any circuit. You have to complete the circuit, but you can't put it back into a fucking hose. You get it? It needs to be in that zone where it's still and fucking can return back to the well to then continue to feed the system. So now the harder and faster you pull out of that 4.5 on either side, okay, the faster it moves and the faster it moves the system, the harder it pulls the system. It just accelerates the pump. That's it.
So, yeah, let me remove this for a second. You do know this is what Gerald's coil does, right?
Of course I do. Why do you think he was fucking cursing me out when I mentioned the Alpha, the Omega, and then I was showing it? Why do you think?
No, he has those 2 coils working in tandem and go like this, and it was compressing it in the center, yeah, and to create that well.
So they are exactly the same, but completely opposite. Okay. So they're flipped this way and then that way. Okay.
Hmm.
And then woven in together because even though Gerald might be doing it with similar types of coil geometries, okay, the idea here is that this is not a coil geometry.
No, I understand. I was just
Yeah,
showing the
we haven't started
similarities
this yet, have we?
of what's going on. Yeah, I've seen it before.
Yeah. Hey, we haven't started this, have we?
What do you mean,
This live. Are we live now?
dude? I've been live for like an hour already.
Dude, I don't know where I've been. I've been running around trying to get my head around to this. I thought this was just me and you talking.
No, dude. You know what? You know what it was? I was gonna start it later, and I just said, forget it. I'll do it now.
Oh, well, it would have been nice for the heads up. I was
No,
like, yo,
that's
we're
all
5
right.
minutes late.
No, it's all right, man. Yeah, things are going on with my son and picking him up, and I don't know. My wife picked up her phone or not. Dude, it's a disaster.
Oh man.
It's all right.
So we went into the so that said, we went into this way too fast. We really hit the gun on this, like, because this was the brief, I thought, but it's not. So all right. Now we get to be a little redundant, and I apologize.
Huh. No, it's all right. I was trying to follow what you said, but there's something I didn't understand in this, Joe. You sent me last night. Let's see. I got this one. Let's see, because we're looking at a primary pattern here. Let me put this back up. This
Yeah,
is-
that'd be the one.
yeah, we generally look at this primary pattern. Okay, we see it all the time. I wish I had the original, but I don't. But it's just energy flow and how it works. And it's usually the 369 when you put it in for Tesla or something like that on pin page or something like that. It'll search something like this.
So that is exactly that, except with the addition of that one extra step. Okay, because what you got to realize is that there is, by creation of the counter flow, okay, those two vectors create the third. All right, so you're 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, 1, right? That counter rotational circumstance creates actually inverse vector rotation. All right. That inverse vector rotation goes from parallel and crosses over to a 45-degree angle, like we see in the RAF. Okay. That once it crosses over, that third vector is created. Now, the third vector just really runs centrally for the most part, and it's a form of containment. All right. However, if you bring that form of containment and you are able to have it then inversely recycle. Now, the only way that you could do this is by doubling and flipping one more time. So you double, you flip one more time, and then this is what you end up with. Okay. When you end up with this, it's significantly different than how we usually perceive things. Okay. And it's only that one more step that it takes to create the Ankh. That flip and the mirroring of it. Okay. That's exactly what it is, the mirroring of it. Okay. And then superimposing it on top of itself. That is the Ankh being created in there. Okay. Because what that does is it creates an inverse relationship of the center toroidal geometry. Okay. So you have an inflow and an outflow coming from both directions. Now, once you have that, then the top starts to feed the bottom and the bottom starts to feed the top of the outside. That brings all the energy, okay, that's coming in through that 9 pulse, so to speak, right? Of that extra vector, that redistributes it through the cycle, okay, actually amplifying that. And then when it comes to a point where it crosses once again through that out, following the same outer geometry, it intersects at the same point in which it was created, okay, meaning that it's of the same. It's pure deconstructive interference as far as waveform analysis is concerned. But we know that that's not what that does. All it does is collapse it to a scalar vector.
Mm-hmm.
So the scalar vector, as we know, is inward or outward. Okay. So that's what you end up having in this. It creates an outward scalar vector on both sides of the central null zone that acts as a directional valve, so to speak. So you do not have an interference of the internal toroidal geometry. All right. However, you at the same time are pushing the other side out. So that's where your poles end up settling and stuff like that. And it just creates what you would call and have called a null zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that you don't take energy from the null zone. That's what this tells you, is that you do not take energy out of the system from the null zone. You see, you got to take energy out from either side of the energy coming into the null zone. All right. And then you must return the energy to the null zone. So you could borrow it from the system, because what this does is it creates its own ground state. All right. Once this ground state is created, when you connect the relationship dynamically between the inner toroidal mechanisms and the outer ones, okay, when you do that, you're creating a ground state. You've broken locality. It has no outer dependence any longer. The system is full, and because the system is full, all you need to be able to keep it maintained is to be able to take it from the right place and give it back to the right place. Whatever you're taking away from it and giving back to will function in resonance with the system. The system is detached entirely from the locality. You've broken locality. And once again, we've discussed numerous times what it means implication-wise as to when you break locality.
So you're trying to get it to a self-run state.
It is, but it's not. It's the same exact concept as when we said, well, you could get over unity, but you can't use it right out the source, right? You can't drink the beer from the keg. You got to put it in a glass first, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's exactly what's going on here. Is you're making sure that you're, by virtue of having the ground state, that anything that comes out of the system, okay, goes back into the well in which it came. All right. And because there's a draw from anything that requires energy or a current vector, let's say, right? The harder it pulls, the faster it pulls from the point of the end of the hose where the water comes out, right? If you think about it as an analogy, you have the hose that goes into a bucket, okay? The bucket holds the water that comes out of the hose, all right? Well, if you take from the hose where it's still in a current state, all right, you're taking current and then using it as current. But when you return it, you cannot return it back to a current state. You cannot do that, all right, because that will be out of resonance at that point. There's no way to bring that in without creating turbulence, therefore decoherence, therefore a failure of the system. You'd be creating greater loss by reintroducing it into a flow stream than you would otherwise. So what do? Well, you don't try to put water from a hose back into a hose. All right. You just take the water that you siphoned off of that hose that was supposed to go into the bucket, and then you put it back into the bucket. Then the bucket feeds the system. See? And it's not about self-sustaining, closed loop that way. It can actually run off of energy that comes from an external source. The idea here is that not that it runs itself, although it could, like under certain circumstances, the idea is that you're actually closing the internal portions of the system off from the external environment. And again, the implications there are massive.
Okay. But that's not how I ever seen it work. Just so you know, because we were saying not pull from the well, but then it doesn't mess with the environment. So what I've traditionally seen is you pull from the well, that's where the energy is. It doesn't break the system, and then it messes with the environment because the on and off structure of it pulls it in, captures it, holds it, brings it down the line, and the other one brings it up. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like a ladder situation.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's decent validity to that. It doesn't break any of the rules here, as far as I'm concerned. I think that the reason that I say to take it from the tap and not the well, so to speak, is because of the state of energy at that point. Okay. If you have a current state that's coming in through, your central axis, okay, that's easy to tap off of. That's something you can pick up. All right. By, literally something you can pick up. Whereas if you bring it into a static state, you run into the same problem that you run into with the electrons.
No, I understand. I'm just saying the loop part is if you build it a coil or whatever, it's the loop part. It's the part that you don't touch. You don't pull it out of that state. It's the part where it goes in and starts playing with the environment that you
Yes,
can
sir. Check it out. You said it, but you're right. You're right at the same time, but because you're right, you're also kind of tying around what you're saying. You're not taking it out of the loop. You're taking it out at the end of the hose. See, closed loops don't work. This is not a closed loop. The thing is that it has an out. The out is right into right into where it builds up in capacitance. It gets stuck. Okay, it's your pressure zone of it. That's the null zone. It's where all the potential is. Where right. So the whole idea is before it returns back to that ground state of potential, which is what that is. Right. If you tap it right off that spot, okay, and then you reintroduce it back to the still of where it's then regulated and then fed back in, there's no loss. And it's in a current state. And you're not interfering with the loop system because you're pulling it right off the tap. And anything that you don't pull off, if it needs to let more out, it just goes. It's already in that direction. And because it's a one-way valve in the way that it works, it just gets stuck there. It gets stuck there until it gets through the out. Because there is a certain degree of, I don't want to call it resistance, but it's not resistance in the traditional sense. It's just that it's never putting out the full capacity to run what created it. That, right? So it's always letting out like less than its capacity. Yeah. So again, this is the difference between being able to tap it off the end of the hose before it hits the bucket, but then returning it back to the bucket so it then can recycle. It's no difference. Either way, it's going back in the bucket at the same rate. And then the thing is by hooking it to the end of the hose, you got to remember it works off of push pull type situation in terms of like the function of current vectoring, okay, and the way that it moves and stuff. You put a load on the end, what does it do to the end of the line? Pulls it faster, goes faster, pulls it faster. Where does it come from? From the end of the bucket. Get it? Well, pulls it faster, and what's it return? It returns it to the bucket.
Well,
See?
okay. So let me put this in a system for you. If I wanted to take the rodent coil and I just wanted it in 2 coils instead of 1, okay, just the reason why. I'm going to resonate them together, and I'm going to tap it in the center. I'm never going to touch the original system, okay? Just going to tap right from the center, right where everything is the highest potential value is right there. But it's in potential. It's not in current, okay? It's not in voltage and current like you would think it was. But I have to capacitate both sides to make it equal so that we can get a Floyd Sweet thing going where it's tapping the resonance 1 2 1 2 at all times, okay? Where it's doing the work, but because it's delayed, it'll actually be able to push it from one side to the other, okay, all day long. and then it'll let me tap out of the well every second that I want it. It's right there for me. And as much as I want out of it, it's like a full cup all the time. When you get it, you just keep getting it. That's the way I see it in the system.
So if you have a bipolar Tesla coil, okay, so therefore you've created the inverse relationship, okay, and the multi-vectoring, and it's your secondary is a hollow tube, right? And then you take from one end of the center and you give back to you run it as a circuit, give it back to the other. Right. The idea here is that, yeah, you could probably pull it off with one wire energy, but at the same time, there's an efficiency circumstance here that's not going on. Okay, by bridging these gaps. Okay, that and it wouldn't necessarily be that. That's just like a little bit of a proof of concept. Okay, whereas the idea here is that you want your inner energy, okay, to actually get to a point on both sides, okay, where rather than recycling out and switching to another type of energy, okay, it's actually riding it, literally riding the spiral, okay, as itself, separate of it, okay, and by virtue of, and then into the point that it recycles, okay, it's that redistribution, okay, that creates the crosses that are the equilibrium. You see, like, and there's a couple different ways that I could propose that it could be done. I mean, secondary magnetic fields, compressing the bipolar fields, is one way where you're basically having a draw out where it folds the inner energies out over the outer dimensionality of the other one, but keeping it separate. Those are the layers that you're talking about, but your layers are building out like orderly in terms of what they are, just in proportion, whereas this one is growing out inversely. All right. And that's sort of where I see the key here is that inverse relationship, because that's what gives you the equilibrium. And that's what the Ankh in there shows.
Mm-hmm.
Again, without it, listen, there's great things. There's a reason that the normal diagram, okay, that the Tesla 369 thing, or they call it Rodin, diagram, right? But there's a reason that key's right on top of Alpha Omega, but it's missing a piece. And that piece is literally the Ankh that keys in exactly and directly. And then when you realize what it does, and mathematically, okay, you see that the 9 and the 4.5 vector, the 4.5 continues down to the end, okay, and splits out. What does 4.5 split out to? It splits out to 5.4, okay, which is literally the half of the center point between those two denominations, okay, and then when it comes back up, it's back in a doubling cycle, except it's different than when it came in, okay, it's different from that which it created, because that was created not by the initial pattern, but the secondary pattern that the initial pattern created.
I get that.
Yeah. So, and then when you look at all the numbers, and then the numbers make all that sense, and how it's all analogous, you start to realize that without realizing the 4.5 vector, and then realizing the redistribution that has to happen in order for the ground state to occur, if you follow the arrows, everything does exactly what you would suppose it would do based on wave interference, meaning there is basically none. Okay, and the only point that there is wave interference is when the 4.5 goes inverse into itself, counterflow through that valve situation. But that's the creation of the valve. That's when it blasts out. And where it blasts out, it just goes right back where it came. That's it turning back to its initial state. It's literally an infinity, infinity, infinity. If you loop them all together, it's a flower, like a Rosicrucian flower. Like this shit's all out there, man. And by the way, this is the Rav, by the way. I see Sean out there. Sean, brother.
Yeah,
We're going to be happy to have you back, man. We miss you.
Sean just took off right now. He said he was leaving. He had to take off.
Oh, all right.
There it is. Right on. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks. Yeah, so this is the Rav. So if you actually take all the vectors and you do away with the cross lines, just to avoid the confusion, you just connect the sides to show the shapes, right? And then you realize what each shape is doing.
Mm-hmm.
This is what the Rav is doing. It's already what the Rav is doing. The Rav is doing this already. So that has the Ankh. It has the Ankh.
Right. No, I get that.
Yeah, it has the Ankh. The other stuff doesn't necessarily have the Ankh all the time. You need a little bit more in order to bring that bridge over. So, that's where this becomes interesting, man. It's just crazy shit. But once you realize the ancient correlations of it, how it all ties together, that's where it's at. Like, show some of the Egyptian stuff and the overlay stuff. We could kind of talk about that just a picture at a time now that we've kind of gone over it.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Hold on. Give me a second. So, hold on.
Right. So on the left, you have just the regular configuration with the Ankh added in. So what you see from the diagram on the left is that after the pulse of the 3-6 coalesce at the 9, that's the relationship with the 4-5, because the 9 is created at the same time the 4-5 is created because of resonance. Here, it's in resonance. So 9-4-5. What ends up happening is that creates that vector. That vector actually goes to do the same exact stuff that the rest of it's doing, but it's just going straight down to do it. Usually what that ends up doing is just creating a center geometry where all it's doing is pulling in, okay? But what this does is it doesn't only pull in, it also pulls in, pushes out. All right, and that is the Ankh circumstance. So again, the 4.5 is the center point of the 4 and the 5. It equally distributes between those 2 points, entering into the outer geometry of the torus at this point. Hitches a ride, except it gets stuck in the same situation that created it in the first place. That the point where they intersect in the center at the 4.5. Now, because it hitched the ride, that's when it vectors out scalar in this direction, but then it interferes with something that it's also in resonance with too, and then hitches a ride with that right back to where it came from. Separately and together, it acts as an amplification, but also acts of its own sovereignty as well, which is the interesting thing. And then at that point, it just continues that cycle. Now on the right, you see what happens when you actually take that configuration and flip it. And what you realize is that, you have polarity, right? And it's all inverse polarity. So everything is kind of doubled. You have an in and an out, and north and a south, et cetera, et cetera. So everything's doubled out in that circumstance. What that allows for is the extra geometric dimensions internally of the torus, okay, that allow for the ground state to occur. And it's no longer leaky, right? So where you have your normal null zone, which would be leaky because it's kind of blocking it in some areas, but there's also stuff taking off of it in the form of eddy currents and so on, whether you realize it or not, right? This blocks it all out. That's it. It's done. It's a one-way valve. And what's super interesting about it is that the energy that's like going from one side to the other can go through. It can go through. But when it tries to return, it just one-way valve, sorry, buddy, and that's it. Can't go back in the other way. So it'll actually go up and down like that, fine. But on the return, once it tries to go the other way, nope. Sorry, buddy. That's it. Boom. And then it's just right back into the system.
Interesting.
Yeah, right back into the energy system because, again, the inside geometry of the 369 is the energy system. The rest of it is just there to support it. That's the scaffolding, the infrastructure.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So you can start to see how everything lines up with it. You know? Like this is exactly what this stuff means.
Sorry, I heard something crash.
Yeah, me too. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, interesting. You know, they something else had this on it. It was the Mayan calendar. When you start looking at it, the bottom's different than the top in the way that things enter and exit. If you look at the ring around it, I don't know if you ever see the similarity in this, but it's there.
For certain. Now, one thing, hold on. What we got? Elijah says, is the between zone of the alpha omega a toroidal impulse? Well, it is. And it is because of the activation. The activation doesn't happen constantly. It's only on the cross. Okay, so what you have to realize here is why it's significant mechanism, right? So you have 1 to 2. Well, that's just a regular current vector, you know, and most of it's all just a regular current vector until it makes its cycles. See, 1 to 2, but then 2 to 4, right? Cool. But then 4 to 8. And that's where it starts to take a turn, because that 4 to 8, even though it's the next logical sequence, that also signifies the reversal. Okay, so that is the flow reversal as far as the geometry is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as the 4 turns to an 8, now all of a sudden that's the counter rotation. So you got to realize the significance of each one of these numbers and what they mean in proportion to one another. So that's the 4 is the vector change in that case. When it starts to reverse, the 5 is the vector change. Now, where the 4 and the 5 cross is the 4.5, okay, which is the 9's relationship to exit from its pulse state like this, up between the 3 and the 6, pulsing up, is now pulsing between 9 and 4.5 on this third vector line. And so it's absolutely a pulse state. But now what's interesting is this. The entire thing is working off of some form of pulsing state, just generally, okay? But when you bring that center energy back into the normal fold of things at the 4.5, okay, it's sovereign of it, but also an amplifying thing. So the way that it ends up falling in is in resonance, but it also makes it a much tighter frequency pattern too, because of the differential that exists. Between how that second thing is, the second is made and how it fires off and cycles back through. So it ends up being 180 degrees out of phase, which just basically is consistent with the rest of it, right? So you end up 180 degrees out of phase on your pulse to rejoin the rest of it. So if you think about it as dashes, right? Well, there's dashes already there. That's the main flow pattern. These are just fitting themselves right in the middle of those dashes. It's making almost more or less an unbroken line of waves, 180 degrees out of phase, and then it returns. And that's how it stays sovereign, but still adds as an amplification factor.
Nice. I got to say this, just credit where credit's due. Gerald was way ahead of us on this one about how that flow pattern worked. He understood it before us. That's for
Yep.
sure.
Well, and he said, did you know that God's name spoken of in the Bible is Alpha and Omega, beginning and the end? Yes, I did. In fact, it started a disagreement between you and I one time.
Yeah,
The
last
last
week.
time I mentioned it.
Oh, it's all good. All good, man.
Yeah, no, this is great stuff. I love it.
Dude, it's just so interesting how you start looking at the ancient symbols and stuff and what they wrote down and how much sense it makes in everything that you're doing. You know what I mean? Every pattern, every mandala, everything they did was very, very specific for a reason.
So, like I said, you have the Rav doing this, right? But there's other stuff that does this too. What about our planet? Follows exactly the same lines. In fact, if you see where I superimposed it over, Nathan, put that up. Now, I want you to mind something here. It's not the scale, and it's not a sphere. Okay, if I had my computer set up properly, then I would be able to do these things accurately. But this is just literally did it on my phone on Photoshop mobile. Well, okay, so that's linked up. Okay, which is like pretty much perfect circuitry. First of all, second of all, it's also how your DNA looks 3-dimensionally. Once you bring it up in the dimensions, you realize that that's a helical. It's a a helix, and it's got all the same node points that you would generally expect from DNA coding.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. That's also analogous to your spinal column. Generally speaking, it's like exactly how it runs with your spinal cord in the center, and then the structure surrounding it and how the nerves are distributed. It's if you do this and you do this exactly four times too, like this, that's what wraps the planet. So if you actually were to print this out, cut it out perfectly, touch the ends together, and then tuck the tops in to the point where they met, what you realize is that you have all of the ley lines, energy grids, the way that all your weather patterns move. So shockingly enough, main intersection points are pretty much all the main areas of human populace. Okay, or an important place in history. It is all of these intersection points. You have Washington, D.C., Rome, Beijing, and Tokyo, basically all hitting the same exact line. It doesn't, again, it's not accurate in this depiction that I showed. I don't know if can you zoom in on that, like closely?
No, I can't zoom on this.
No? Well, so you can't see the lines, but you kind of get the idea. It maps out the equator and all of the meridians, and it lines exactly. Okay, so the idea here is that this is the ever repeating pattern. All right, this is it. This is the one. And once you realize that the only thing that makes you die is the fact that your inside doesn't recycle to your outside, that's it. That's literally the deal. Your inside, being an energy, needs to fundamentally also capture your outside as well, and then be recycled in. That's kind of the key. Now, is there something to induce that in a literal sense? I don't know. But, I mean, when you have the Ankh and then you have all this knowledge put in, and then you're able to throw the Alpha Omega right on top of the Son of Ra, I am the Son of Ra of eternity, which, again, not my belief system, but the point is that, this information's been told many times in many a tongue,
Oh, yeah.
The idea here is that there's a lotus that is there as well. And where's the lotus growing out of the water? What is the water? The water is the connecting of the 2 points. That's the ground state. The water is the ground. Once, like there's so much to a very simple image is what it comes down to.
Wow. So
Yeah, Pete Rhodes. I get it, but we will return after rest. We need to walk through the underworld. Well, who's to say? Yeah, right. I mean, you did say that's rest. Yeah, everybody knows that here is work. So you gotta, yeah, right. You gotta go back into the tank, right? You gotta take it from the tap and give it to the tank. That's what I say.
give it to the plank or tank? Which one?
To the tank. I mean, but both really. I mean, you give it to the plank too. Get on the other side. Yeet. Done.
Wow. Oh, I tell you, man.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I always said it's all the same, but like this is like once you start realizing that this particular thing could be superimposed over just about any semi-stable circumstance, that's absolutely the case. Now, stuff that's totally incoherent, that's where we are. See, what's interesting is that there's this wild chaos that exists, but because what it is and what it's all made of is so strong, it's constantly in a state of taking all the bullshit in and then refreshing it and trying to throw it into order. It's just always in this state of like trying to throw it back into order. And that's like the number one thing that if we're going to talk about that science rejects, that's it. You see, they say that entropy is non-reversible, yet here we are in, a circumstance that's sustainable, and you can't have something sustainable if you're just always at a loss. The idea is that it's cyclical. So it goes into chaos. There's losses at times, but that loss creates an imbalance, and that imbalance creates a harder pull on one side of the damn thing. And then maybe it's not always instant, but there's a self-modulation that occurs that pulls that side in further to pull that side back in. And that's just what happens. And, just because it doesn't happen perfectly, and in every circumstance doesn't mean that it's not constantly happening.
But if you can't create or destroy energy, you'll never have a loss. It just goes somewhere else, and then it comes back in another way. That's all.
Right, but remember something is that yes, you cannot create or destroy anything, but we live in a world of duality. Okay, and in that world of duality, when you separate your differentials, the opposites of the coin, you can actually have them flow together without ever mixing. And there's circumstances where if you've ever seen where the delta, in Louisiana, Mississippi, of the Mississippi River, enters into the Gulf of America. God bless America. You notice that the waters they don't mix instantly. There's a clear separation at that point. Clear separation. It's because the differentials were split. They're only coming together for the first time. Now, if you could sustain those particular differentials, well, they'll never mix. So how do you do that? Torsion, laminar flow, clean, and this goes back to when we were talking about my overcomplicated solution of the primary coil of the the counterwound Tesla coil that we were originally discussing that you did it another way, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you change directions without revectoring? Right? Isn't that the question, right? And that's exactly what this system does. You see, it makes a bunch of turns, but the turns are all within the realm of a current state for the most part. But macroscopically, when you zoom out, their vectoring actually creates layered modes of electromagnetism. So you have every mode of electromagnetism in this layered, right? So it's changing from one phase state to another phase state seamlessly, just based on how it's moving in the field path. So everything, all the ingredients are there in the balance that they need to be in order to sustain the types of environments that need to be there to be able to take the locality of it and make it disassociated from its environment.
Okay.
That's why it ends up not dependent on the environment for a ground. It's in a non-diffuse state at that point. Once you have non-diffusion, well, I mean, you tell me what does gravity matter at that point? Or I mean, it does and it doesn't. It doesn't because you're in control of it. See, it's not that it doesn't exist; it's just that you're in control of it.
Yeah. So time energy says black holes a misunderstanding. It is.
I agree.
It builds out like a node. That's really what it does, because you see these things pull in with a vortex on each side and it sucks everything in, and it's trying to accumulate mass. So, yeah, total misunderstanding.
Pete Rose, Davenport, Iowa, great place from where the American Pickers are.
Oh,
I was sad. Yeah. I was sad. What was it? I thought it was Frank.
Frank.
Was it?
Fitz?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Frank. Right? Didn't he die?
But Robbie took over after Frank.
See, I haven't watched it since then.
Robbie was the other guy's brother.
Well, shout out to Iowa.
Yeah, Mike's brother.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. What do we have in Iowa? We got like Corn and Pete Rose, the American Pickers, and the Fat Electrician. That's what we got.
Yeah, Frankie, he passed, didn't he?
He was one of those guys that they said died 100 times before he ever did.
Oh, dude, people on the internet, man, make up lies and big giant stories about this stuff. Somebody was on there trying to push that Tupac was alive and he's 50-something years old. You know what I mean? And he's saying hello to people now. Dude, there's all kinds of stuff out there like this.
Yeah. He'd say, and he grew. Frank died, yeah, but he lived right behind him. Oh, I don't know, man. I only know him from TV, but he always seemed like a pretty cool guy. You never know, right? How things really are, but always seemed like pretty chill.
No, they both did, man. It seemed like you wanted to ride in the van with him and go pick stuff up too. You know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Dennis says that Iowa has Bigfoot. That cornbread fed Bigfoot right there, yo. You gotta find himself like a nice big hole to crawl up into, I guess.
Wow. Yeah, I grew up California, man, where you put mattresses on the ground, jumped off the roof. I mean, people do a bunch of stupid stuff everywhere. Got crews up in Yonkers. Yeah, kind of the same thing. Nice.
Yeah. Right. Also, right. Lots of deer for food. Yep. Iowa probably like capital of the 650-yard shot. You know.
Corn huskers. You go to the game, put on the corn on your head. Kind of like you go to Wisconsin, put the cheese on your head. So.
Well, anyway, so there's a lot more to what I'm saying, and I'm certain a lot more than what I've not only presented that I know, but like that's yet to be discovered from this. I'm still playing with it.
Mm-hmm.
I made the connection before I understood the significance for what it's worth, and what drew what made it apparent to me what it was when Wahoo put the picture of the Ankh next to that particular glyph.
Yeah.
In the Discord. I looked at the glyph for like literally a split second. I go, holy shit. The Ankh is next to the Alpha Omega.
Yeah.
And then I was like, am I right? And then I literally dumped it on top and I was like, well, there it is. And then I charted it all out a handful of times, a handful of ways, and I was like, things don't do that.
Nice.
And then when I saw the two lines, once I inverse them, right, and I noticed there's two taps, there's two feeds, like in and out, right? And then there's two lines. I realized, well, not only is that your null zone, but when you draw the geometry around this null zone, it's cubed out. It literally has nowhere to go. It's just a full bucket. It's just a full tank at that point, and it just made all the sense in the world. So,
And I want to say thank you to Ulysses, man. He gave 5 Old Man Bill's memberships. Thank you very much, man. I really do appreciate that.
Always so on point. Very worth it, man. Hope everybody out there gets one.
Yeah, right on, man. Let's see. Nice. Man, yeah, we do that after show thing, man. It's pretty cool.
I love that. I think that's great.
Yeah, it works out really good. Thank you, Ulysses. Right on, man.
Over and beyond, man. So generous, always.
Yeah. I don't know if I'll be able to do it today. There's like the world's falling apart while I'm sitting here. These people can't communicate for some reason. I don't understand.
Well, I mean, depending on what time, we wrap things up here, I'll hop on there for a little bit. So, we'll drop the link a few times in the chat. That way, anybody that wants to join can feel so inclined.
Let me pull that up. Sorry.
Yeah. So while you're doing that, let me just say to everybody out there, because between Ulysses and Darren, and pardon me if I'm forgetting, like I try to keep track the best I can, and Nathan, we're gifting out a ton of memberships, like, and I say we, but like, I mean, as a group, right? There's a lot of gift memberships going out. Just remember that, it's important to the channel that if you're gifted a membership, you find value in it, whatever. It's like, what is it, $3 a month, Nathan? How much is it? It's $3 a month. And it's really appreciated if you continue with your gifted membership, but you actually have to prompt it to to join on a monthly basis if you've been gifted a membership. And I guess that I'm just putting that reminder out, because I feel like a lot of key stuff that we discuss gets put up there without you having to like pull through 3-hour-long podcasts all the time. So like, it's a good way to look back and see exactly the stuff that we discussed. And there's also a lot of original material there that we do show eventually on the channel. Not saying that we don't, right? But you're actually able to see it there, and it's the original thing. It's just the video. So if you don't want any of this and you just want to see the experiments and stuff, that's a great way to do it. So just remember to, renew your membership if you can, and if you're able to. It's greatly appreciated.
Not all. Yeah, thank you guys for everything. So, yeah, keep my channel running. Keep me working. Oh, man. He says he found the theme song on there.
Oh, you got the theme song on there. Right on. Good. Nice. Yeah, I've been slacking on my music writing lately. It's like there's only so many places you could be. But
yeah, lately, man, I've been pulled away from everything, man. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow, man. It's my first day that I'm able to spend by myself in my garage without being pulled everywhere. That everybody has to go somewhere. And I got this bad boy to keep me company all day.
I was gonna say, you got your power supply. Yeah, you're rocking and rolling now. That's it.
Yeah, I'm gonna rip it up, man.
Oh, but don't. I know you well enough. Guess what? You're gonna run it both ways all the time. I know. You're still gonna run it. You're still gonna run it the other way too, just because you know what? It showed a lot, man. It showed a lot. And I always say it's the hardest thing about this area of science and experimentation is getting the measures, showing it, because it's not always there in a way that could be, measured the traditional sense. It's the opposite, right? So you're looking for what's not there a lot of times, and people don't really like that as evidence. Well, don't worry about what we're seeing. What are we not seeing? Oh, that's the evidence. Oh, but they don't like that. That's not evidence, right?
Well, that's why you change it around, you amplify it, you play a little bit, kind of show parameters of where this thing can go, what's possible, what's not, so you don't get some weird math equation that came out of nowhere that has no relevance. So I mean, it can kind of give people ideas. Hey, yeah, we can go this way with it, or yeah, that shows potential. Let's ask to see if it works that way. Because a lot of this stuff you wouldn't think you can tune it, but you can tune them. You know what I mean? You could change the resonance in this thing all day. You know what I mean? Once you get it set and get it where you need to, then your oscilloscope's your best friend in this, man. It's our click, 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 and it affects all three at once. You know what I mean? All three of the spheres that it's playing with. So yeah, I will keep doing it all because I find sometimes fun when you're messing with something, you know what I mean, not supposed to, and then some when you're trying to verify something. But most of all, I just can't let Sean win. Sorry, I I have an ego. I won't let Sean win when it comes to high voltage. It's my whole channel in the beginning was based on high voltage. Just a thing between him and I. Nothing personal. And anyway, it's like a show him up type of thing. Like if you did that, I have to do that. Okay, because you did that, I have to do that. So we did the same thing with Tesla coils, and we turned out really, really well. And he usually beats me in the end, to be honest with you. So kind of hard to win against that guy.
That's it. Well, as long as we realize that any competitive nature in this is really just the fun of the drive, and realistically that all the work, it's literally impossible, whether you're doing the experiments, working on the engineering aspects of analyzing and improving like what can be and how that's going to be done, or no matter where you come into this arena, everybody's work ultimately significantly overlaps,
Oh yeah,
because it's all the same.
yeah, you can't
you
help
know
it.
right, it's all the same, and the goals tend to be mostly the same too. um so yeah, it's kind of the way.
Yeah, you got to keep it adventurous, man. So some of the stuff that I think up is so off the wall that I don't know anybody else will try it but me. So it happens.
Well, it get to the certain point where whether what you're thinking or saying is right or wrong, and whether you're going to stick to your guns on it being secondary to the idea, you get to a certain point in all this where any of the common naysaying that would usually come your way,
Hmm.
you could absolutely positively explain, show, give examples, point your way right out of. Okay. But will they accept it? And that's always been the dynamic.
Oh,
Will they accept it?
I
And
I got a guy. Okay, can't accept anything. He told me that let me get this right. Okay. A Don Smith coil was created before a bipolar Tesla coil, is what he told me. He said that my Neutron coil is not a Tesla coil. He said that my Odin coil is not a Tesla coil, and it is not the traditional Tesla coil that everybody builds today. That's what he told me. Okay. So I corrected him on what everything was, and the bipolar Tesla coil became before all of it. Okay. So it's absolutely a Tesla design, is where Don Smith got his stuff. And Don Smith even said that. And then the guy had the nerve this week when I wrote that little synopsis on how the magnets and everything go. He told me, "Well, I don't believe you. It doesn't look like you did the work on your channel to show it." And I'm like, "Oh, you watch all 600 and some odd videos, huh?" And then what else did he tell me? Oh, I have to see an algebraic form to confirm if you're right or not. Oh, So you would like me to write your physics paper for you? Is that what you're asking? Because I could do it, but doesn't mean that I want to or need to. So I get that guy. He's a repeat customer or a repeat, you know what I mean, naysayer all the time.
Now there is a circumstance that exists here, and it's worth mentioning, and it has to do with
Go ahead.
resonance. Okay, is that once you understand that, you could take a rock and throw it into a lake, okay, and that's going to create a wave, okay, and that wave, it's subject to diffusion, okay. The frequency doesn't change, but the amplitude does. But that frequency goes on way further than perceivable. But here's the thing, even with your own eyes, that ripple, if it's perfectly flat and calm, okay, will go on as far as you can see. If you have light reflecting off the water, you could tell that immediately. Perfectly calm, one rock being the only source of a ripple. Okay. Now, if you were to continue that rippling from that source, okay, well, every single thing that falls into resonance, okay, between it is going to start throwing off its own waveform, just like the example that I'd given many times before about when I was at the river and I was rocking on the rock, right, at the edge of the water, and it was putting it out, and then all of a sudden I see an entirely different 360-degree separate propagation coming off of an underwater surface, right? So you get it. That's falling into resonance. Now all of a sudden you have this secondary form that's passing it out at a higher amplitude further out. And then that's throwing something else eventually in. So as long as the initial source, okay, is allowed to go on long enough, it will actually build to the maximum capacitance of anything that's resonant in the area and then continue to amplify that signal throughout. So what's that mean about passing energy along even, through any medium? What it means is that as long as you have something resonating and you have something in proximity to fall into resonance and it continues, it will only increase in its amplitude to its maximum capacitance, and then continue to throw that out to throw other things in as far and wide as conceivable. That's what it boils down to. What does it take? It takes time. It takes time. It doesn't happen instantly, and that's why it has to build in order for you to see this, the thing that you put into resonance, to start putting out its own visible form. Okay, it starts immediately, but it builds.
Yeah, I had that problem several times. Like you run things too long, and you got a couple different things going on, and before you know it, everything's messing with every power supply in your whole garage, and then you just have to shut it all off. Yeah, it becomes a real disaster. Or like you talk about a rogue wave where you have the same amplitude all the time, and then all of a sudden, once in a while, it just spikes, and then boom, the wave becomes rogue, and it's like 100-foot high and starts eating ships. I've seen a lot of stuff like that, man.
Well, I guess the point of what I was saying, though, and you're right about that, and that's a great example of what I'm saying, is that it takes the time to build up to then further out, okay? But at the same exact time, that means that the level of diffusion is secondary to that which could pick it up, right? So you have a rate of diffusion that does exist, except that diffusion doesn't, like, when does it really end? Can you say, or is it just unmeasurable? Right? But at the same exact time, like if you're able to just wait for it, the other stuff will start to build on it too, and then start putting out too. And the point is that the information that's being put out there, it never really goes away anywhere. So every single wave from every single word spoken, like, does it go into a diffuse state? Yeah, sure. But that's it. So there's just constant interaction of every single other thing that's ever happened and everything that is to be. It's constant. That's how it goes. It may get interfered with and broken up into other different pieces, but the roots of it is still there somewhere.
Absolutely.
All right, we're gonna get some Burn the American in here soon, huh?
Well, I sent him the invite on in his
Nice.
inbox, so hopefully. Huh.
Yeah, all this stuff is fascinating because it ties all the highly esoteric stuff together with the rest. And we already did a whole entire episode on why the doubling and stuff of the 369 by tying it in with Fibonacci, right?
Oh yeah.
So when you take Fibonacci 369, realizing that that literally is alpha omega. Now you throw that key situation into it, and then when you keep the numbers and then you realize what they are in verse, and then this is the trick, okay? Because it goes further. And I didn't mention this point, but you could have seen it in some of my some of the diagrams that I made, okay?
Mhm.
Which it's unfortunate we can't zoom in. I'll make them available in the Discord for anybody that wants to see, or maybe put them on the community page. Okay, but not only are they inverse when I made them in terms of their arrangement, but they're also inverse in terms of their color.
Hmm.
You
Nice.
see, and then I made it transparent so you could see those interactions. All right. What you quickly realize, and I did so in a way that was coinciding with the coherence of the flow. So in other words, when I was going from the 1 to 2 to 4, it was red, okay? But then the 4 to 8 and the 5 to 1 was orange.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the 8 to the 7 to the 5 was yellow. Okay.
Okay.
See what I did there? Okay, it's literally now on the color wheel, it is also related in its interaction and inverse on the sides. Now, what happens when you take that, superimpose it inverse, and then also photo negative the colors? You see what I did? Now you get the real interactions.
Yes.
That's where it comes, because that's everything that's related. And what you end up seeing is the geometry of it, because the colors need to be like, in order for your head to process all of these different interactions, you need to be able to bring all these things into that correct perspective.
Yeah.
And that's the deal with it. You have to photo negative the color symmetry as well, and also have the correct analogs to what's going on the color wheel in order to be able to differentiate from this to that. Like, in terms of, if you're just not imagining this in an abstract way that like my mind does, my mind just sees this entirely differently. We won't go into that. For visual purposes, this is the way to do it. That's what I did, and it's actually literally phenomenal. And once you realize that the color plays a main part in it too, you start to realize that light mixes differently than colors on a color palette, right? What you can end up doing is, when you have something in resonance, we know it's more than one frequency. If you have a certain color, who's to say that it's purely that color? Well, if it's not a laser, then it's not. It's not a coherent bandwidth. It means that it's made up of multiple frequencies, which some of the average is of that color. Get it? Some of the average. You got to realize these things. This shit's important.
Well, that's why I sent you that thing with that the periodic table on it, because they were building it out in the sphere, but it was the colors on there too. So it all kind of fits on what we're doing here, if it's right. You know what I mean? So I got to double check that and find out what the paper is with that.
Right on.
So funny, because we're messing with everything that like this rabbit literally has everything in it that they all say is the fundamental stuff that's going on. You know what I mean? Whether it be the laser stuff, whether it be, rotation, speed, you know what I mean? The compression in there, the heat, the cold, all of it. Resonance, It's one of the few things that you could find that you can get everything in one. And it's like peeling back layers of time as we do it. You know what I mean? Different things that they've
I
already
do.
told us.
I mean, you're dead on. And, okay, so the idea here, right, is that there's a difference between a whistle and a hum. Get it? Like a whistle is as close to a specific frequency as it's going to be, right? Turning a whistle to a hum is resonance, okay? Because what ends up happening is the hum is more than one tone that's working analogously with one another.
By the way, that rap doesn't start without that sound. You know that, right? That
Yeah.
shit, and then boom, it hits. Like it doesn't start without it.
Perfect. I love it, and you'll see why too. And I just thought of this now. All right, because it's true. Like when you whistle, what do? Right? Is you make a hole in your mouth, right? And you're blowing it literally in a vortex, right? Well, that vortex isn't resonance. See, that's not resonance. That's a vortex. It's the magnetic component. Well, when you have a hum, you're literally taking two of the same and you're bringing them by the same source in a vibrational state opposite of each other. So you're getting it off the top and the bottom. You're getting more than one note. Those notes are made of the same and from two opposites, one and the other. Right. That's the difference between the whistle and the hum. That's the difference between resonance and a coherent state. And not that resonance isn't a coherent state. I didn't really say that, right? But like a pure tonal state. And again, it's in the geometry of the interaction. Period. That's it. Geometry of the interaction. Do certain things in certain relationships and certain configurations with the other. The outcome is the same. Whether it's blowing bad breath through your fucking fat lips or it's, figuring out your energy vectoring, and people think that energy vectoring means the way that you configure your conductors. And to a degree, that's true. But realistically, that's not what you're looking for. The geometry you're looking for is not so much pairing it with how you run a conductor as much as it is creating the field that is in line with the flows that are in the pattern. And that's where I think it kind of gets lost a lot of the time for people. I think so. Because I had somebody say to me when I showed them this, they were like, well, if you wind it this way, then this will be your interaction. I paused for a second because my mind didn't even think about that. Thought about it for a second. They were right. Okay. I was like, you're right, but that's not what you're looking for. You're right. That's not what you're looking for. Forget who it was. It was on Discord. I was like, yes, if you wind these wires this way, that will be what you get, but that's not what we're getting at. You need your field patterns and your energy vectoring to be this, not the way that you wind it. So you need to figure out what you need to run where or what fields you need to induce in this spot or that spot in order to get that geometry to become into a standing wave pattern. See?
That's, by the way, I just want to say hi to Lulu out there.
Lulu!
By the way, that's why Jack never can get anti-gravity, even though he wrote his paper. It literally is, you have to write geometry. Like you will literally have to do it. There's no way around it. Okay? There's no spot you can point on a map to get there. It just doesn't work. And it's because what geometry does, it doesn't stay the same. It inverts or pulls itself inside of itself and then turns. Dude, this stuff is wild, man, the way it works. But it's because it does that, it has to be a geometrical form. You can't explain it any other way. So yeah, it's just the energy pattern and how it's working and what it's doing that changes that. And only in geometry are you going to find it.
Yeah. All right. I couldn't agree with you more. And realistically, once you understand what each energy vector does, you realize what components at play, and then all you need to do is create the component that creates that field geometry, and then understand what it natively creates in that formation. But then if it's not what you want, how to be able to manipulate it with a secondary or a third or a fourth element to be able to bring it into the state that you're looking for geometrically. I do want to answer a question in the chat real quick. Pete Rose asked what I do for a job. I am I'm a litigation examiner for an insurance company. That's what I do. I handle.
He tells you
injury law.
no, and he tells you no a lot. That's what he does.
What's that?
I say you tell him no, and you tell him no a lot. That's what you do.
No, I'm not a no guy. I'm not a no guy.
Not a no guy.
I'm not a no guy. No. What I am is I don't care what I pay, and I appreciate what you're looking for. But the reality of the situation is that in order for me to get you what you want, like certain conditions are going to have to be in place, and chances are that's not going to happen. So this is where I'm at, and that's it. I'm not a no guy. I'm just look at it sort of thing. But I have a background in biometric analysis, and accident reconstruction for car accidents and stuff, and the mechanism of injury. Basically, for what I get paid, it's a ridiculous proposition why a position like mine even exists. Because you have to know law, and then you have to also deal with lawyers in terms of large sum settlements and negotiate those cases. But then you also need to know the corporate background or the business end of things to know how things are going. But I also need to review medical records, and then not only determine legal liability, but also need to be able to have a firm understanding of the mechanisms of injury, the types of injuries in every single part, what might have been pre-existing and contributing, and then make all sorts of determinations, assess values. So it's sort of a bullshit position that should never exist. Because it's like I'm nothing special and play everything on TV. You know what I mean? I'm not a lawyer, but I play one on TV. I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. I'm not a business guy, but I play one on TV. And at the end of the day, I guess that I'm just a professional negotiator that has a lot of steps to get to before you could ever sit there and try to work out a deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I got to direct my counsel and stuff. They work in my direction, so I need to know exactly what my legal strategy is and how to navigate all that, the ins and outs, because realistically they do what I tell them, and they don't do the things I don't tell them, and they literally act as a fucking proxy to the courts. So
yeah. I get it. Huh. Crazy.
Yep. So that's what I do. I used to say it was soul sucking, but I stopped caring at that degree and just understood that it's a matter of going through motions and necessity. And just like every other responsibility in life, there's certain things that, you find yourself a little boxed into. And, for me at this point in time, that's sort of it. And I just try to, make myself meaningful in other ways, right? Like that's.
Yeah, I get it. Right on, man. He was just making the point that you're a very smart individual, Joe.
Oh, I appreciate that. I do. Part of intelligence is realizing that once you become set in a belief or a way, you failed. Because it's ever changing, ever dynamic, and there's no ceiling to what you know.
Yeah. Well, it's only that way until you find something better. That's usually the way it is. You know what I mean? If you can't hold on to it even though you know it's bad, that's just a mistake. So it's when I see a lot of people making, man. I make that sometimes too because I get hard headed about something and then have to admit how hard headed and bad I was at that. Yeah. It takes a lot to eat the crow before somebody asks you to.
It does. And, like I feel like, when I was younger and stuff, I used to fall more into that end of things, where like I'd have like a hard, stance on something, and that was kind of good. And here's the thing about like that though, is that there's benefit to that, you know, like there is benefit to that when you
Mhm.
stand up for something because like, nope, this is it. That's that, right? Like there's a certain amount of impermeability that you have, by taking those hard stances. But once you do away with it, you start to expand. But the thing is that the expansion gets kind of like a little out of control to the point where you have to manage it. Because if you're willing and open to try to reason with anything, even if you don't agree with it, at the end of the day, all you end up with is no identity. So it's that really deeply dives into like how the psychology of it all also plays a huge role. Um, but yeah, I mean, for me, like the number one thing I think in all of this, right, and it always has been,
Mhm.
and something I didn't understand when I was younger is that like as soon as you sit there and you're like, I know how to cook, throw this out there, right? I know how to cook. So that's one thing I know, right? And then you know, learn how to paint, you know, and then you're like, and I know how to paint. Okay. If you draw no such correlation between the two, okay, even though they seem like such different things, right? Well, then you're doing yourself a disservice because there's tons of stuff that you learned learning to cook that directly and immediately applies to learning to paint. And then
Yeah.
when you start to build furniture or something out of wood, and start doing that, you realize that the things from the cooking and the painting, well, that is directly analogous in many, many ways that way too. And all the pieces to the puzzle start coming together. And, like they don't make sense at first. You're sort of like, man, this is random. Right. But then one day you look around, you made all these connections and the puzzle is built. You
Oh
see?
yeah. No,
Yeah, the
no, I
puzzle is
get it.
built and you can see how it's all related. And that's exactly what it is. And, my ex wife used to tell me all the time, she go, I don't understand why you pick up something that you're interested in, go at it so with such passion, you know, and then you get to this certain point of proficiency, which frankly, between me and you, is probably like that stage shy of mastery, and then move on to something else.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
And my response to that is simple. Like at this stage in my life, knowing what I know now, which is that I never stop doing any of those things, whether I'm practicing them currently or not. I'm still practicing them in other ways, okay, through virtue of another process. And that everything that I've ever learned there, I'm taking with me into something else,
Yeah.
and it's all related in that regard. And I never felt like I was skipping from one thing to a next. I just felt like I was building on that one thing in a different way.
Yeah.
So,
No, I get that.
yeah. Well, where'd Bernie go?
I don't know. He popped in and popped out.
I just wanted to finish that thought.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I don't know, maybe lost connection or something.
I don't know. Bernie, if you're out there.
Yeah, come on back. Yeah, dude, I did that. What did I do? I was doing cars for a long time, and then I did when I got disabled a little bit, man, I did cooking and stuff like that. Oh, here's Bernie. Is he coming back? Yeah, there he is.
Oh
we
my
go.
God, you look
Now let
American.
me sign in.
What's up,
Dude.
Bernie?
I do? Oh, snap. What's going
Yeah,
on?
I know.
The alpha and the
You got
omega.
that LH stink on you still, bro.
Agenda, I guess.
Oh, we got a
Oh,
reverberation
no.
or something going on.
Yeah, LA just rubbed off on me because it was a traumatizing experience with the layovers. No,
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I just I stepped it up. I gotta look good for you, gentlemen. It's the alpha and the omega.
nice.
Right on.
So I'm guessing you've already gone through all of your presentation. I'm sorry, I was on a call with Michael Perrone there, going through some stuff and hopped on as soon as I could.
Well, I mean, honestly, it was really fast and loose, and we could, I did send you some of the stuff on the
You
side, but
did. I seen it and I love it and I'm intrigued and I would love if you go back into it a little bit more if you're willing.
yeah, Nathan, you want to pull it open again? We'll do another quick run through.
And the color aspects I was listening to, but didn't get to see the.
All right. So the alpha omega thing I had figured out a while ago. Okay. And I knew that the Ankh keyed in. That's what I figured out, but I didn't really have the full grasp. But then this particular photo came up with both that glyph on the left, which is the Son of Ra, the Eternal, okay, and the Ankh next to each other. And I looked at that glyph and I go, holy shit, it's the Alpha and the Omega. And there is right next to it the Ankh that I've keyed in, right? And that led me to start to play with it. And this is what I found. So if you want to go to the next one, Nathan.
It's all in the seal.
Hang on.
Yeah. It's like the whole they knew and we're trying to figure it out. So now you could see literally the alpha inside of the omega in this structure that keys up with all of its main and symmetrical attributes. Okay.
I just have to state that the exact same symbols and geometry are used in modern masonry as well, with the pillars of Boaz and the sun right above, where
Absolutely.
like it's exact same.
So yeah, so this is directly tied esoterically to the Jewish Kabbalah, the Tree of Life. It's also tied directly to Masonry, all of their teachings, like them or don't like them, being secondary to the idea that the Bible says all these same things. You're just using different mouth sounds, to describe what's going on. But again, the alpha and the omega is directly present in the glyph, directly next to the ankh. Okay, so that's where this is. So if you want to go to the next one.
Sorry, give me 1 second. This one?
Yep, cool. So here we just have the alpha omega and then realization of the fact that that is directly analogous to the 369, Rodin.
The Rodin.
With the Rodin, right.
That's
So this is
amazing
the Tesla Rodin 369. Without flaw, he's exactly, directly, and perfectly because it is the same.
Oh my God. I just had a vision of why it's how the energy enters back into the center of the torus, right? Like it's how it's breaking the outer field and entering back into itself through that A.
Bro, you just wait. You just wait. This is part one. Wait till you see it keyed, bro. Yeah. Okay. On to the next. Okay, so this is now not full development. Okay, but this is with the Ankh keyed in. All right, in one side. All right, so what you see is that you have the primary counter-rotational axes. All right, so takes the one vector, turning it into two counter-rotational, two parts. Okay, the two in their crossing create the third, the ignition of the 3 and the 6 to pulse to the 9. Okay, but where does it cross that initiates the sequence? Well, it crosses at 4.5. Okay, so what ends up happening is, by virtue of the creation of the 4.5 and the 9, is the creation of the third vector via the two vectors. Okay, what this does is it takes them from, which we talked about in the RAV. Okay, so I'm going to make the comparison now. All right, it takes them from a parallel state of counter rotation and crosses them, okay, to
So
a 45 degree, okay, because that's the relationship as they turn parabolic. Okay, so once they turn into that parabolic state, well, your 9 pulses down, creating the third vector to the 4.5. 4.5 drops all the way down. Okay, it reaches the end, and that's generally where this ends. But here's where the Anki's in, is that rather than just be cyclical through the center, you bring the inside out. Okay, so what you're doing here is you're here. Go back for 1 second. You're taking the 4.5, okay, which is directly the center point between 4 and 5, okay,
which equal 9.
and because it was created of the 3-6 pulse, okay, it's perfectly in resonance but slightly out of phase at a different value, aka a different frequency. Okay, well, it comes back down but then splits off back, riding along with the 4-5. Okay, now the 4-5 are about to cross again, and where do they cross? Right where it came. Get it? So they're hitching a ride in resonance, sovereign to themselves, interacting with themselves at the meeting point of it all. Okay, creating a scalar vector. So you have a magnetic component, a current component, and a scalar component. The scalar component is going to blast out, except it's in resonance with that which created it, which is about to bang into that current vector of the 3 and the 6. It's going to ride up with the 3 and the 6 to the 9 and continue the cycle. Now, here's where it gets interesting. This is creating a valve. Okay.
Yeah.
Your 9 is still pulsing to that 4.5 all the way to the end without interference. Okay. But the counterflow that comes in at a 45-degree angle into that interactive point, okay, is creating no ability for the reverse flow to occur. So there's total coherence. Okay. Now let's go ahead and mirror this. So if you want to find one that's mirrored. Okay, hold on. Before we move on, this is what it looks like when you key the Ankh in that fashion into the Alpha Omega. It is the all-seeing eye. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the drop too, sucking back in that 4-5 bottom vortex.
All right, Nathan, move on though, because wait, there's more. I feel like Billy Mays, but not my beard's like not as black though. All right, so
Nice.
this is exactly what I just explained, except it's all numbered out. Okay, so you actually see that it rides up back to the 9 on the 3.5, 6.5 axis. So you have all the ratios of the relationships that you can calculate very simply with like simple math. Okay. Move on.
Sorry. Looking for the right one, Joe.
What's up, Mike, by the way? All right.
Not too much. Just hanging.
Yeah, man. Right on. So, all right. So here's what we see now of just the Omega, Alpha Omega. Okay, superimposed on top of each other. So this is probably something that you've seen maybe before. Okay. But maybe not in this context of either the Rodin scale or the Alpha Omega scale. Okay, but you've seen this shape before. All right. Ironically, it's the same as the Kagome lattice, which has all of the modulating polar shift abilities. Okay, which this also has, so bear that in mind. But again, this is not with the Ankh keyed in. This is just the sequence of it being mirrored in inverse. So you could actually look at your interaction lines and know exactly what the relationship is based on the number and the where it's vectoring. All right, and continue.
A key part is that the red is the hot explosive and the blue is the endothermic cold going back on itself. And there's a question of once it's in, how does it get back out? It's the
You're about to
blue
see, yo. That's the next one, bro. It's the next slide. It's the next slide, yo. I love this.
Yeah.
That you just answered. You just asked that. How does it keep in? That's how you key the onk. You see what happens? It redistributes the center pulse, okay, which again is 180 out of phase, all right, and also of a resonant frequency, but not the same as the hot side, okay, or the blue or the the blue side, right? Well, it hitches a ride back on the blue side to scale her out. Okay, and then hitch a ride back on the hot side to recycle. Now, here's the thing, and this is the key. Okay, this is why the onk is the key, and this is why the key is the key. Okay, is that you have two 9s, two 4.5s. Okay, two scalars opposite of one another, creating a null zone in the center. Except this is no ordinary null zone because it is upper dimensionally solid. It added that.
It's like the 0 point or like the actual what the hell is this? Where the dimensions flow back in upon themselves from the lowest to the highest and are rematerializing.
So exactly what we were talking about again, how I tied it into Fibonacci. Okay. This is exactly that same reverse circumstance, but reversed twice. So it's coalescing, and it's breaking down and building up twice. All right. And what created the check valve on one side, okay, where it could flow this way or that way, but not in, okay, exists here. And what that creates is because it's sealed off from the rest of everything through an upper dimensional check valve. All right. You have a ground state.
What keeps it solid?
You have a ground state.
It's grounded.
So you've broken locality because you no longer need an external relationship.
Your field is the ground. Like you've created a field that is a ground, essentially.
You create a well in your null zone. See, your null zone under normal circumstances, okay, it works toroidally as the intermediate spot between compression and decompression. Okay. But what this is doing is allowing the compression decompression to happen and flow in from both directions, but have no leakage out because it is a check valve because of the scalar deconstructive return that occurs at the point of interaction from that which it's manifest. Okay, because you have a different angle of interaction, okay, it works like a filter in terms of if you want to think about it like polarization. Okay, right? You have it facing this way, you get one kind of light. This way, another kind of light. You hold it on the 45, you're losing half of both.
Yeah, like a crystal. If one way it can be a mirror, reflect everything. The other way it is see through and it passes through, or it can third angle. It can be completely absorption because it casts a shadow on itself between the mirror and the reflection of the clear. It's right there.
You're on the point. So what's the significance of having your own self-contained ground state? Well, that means that you can, because you have everything separate, okay, you have the hot and the cold separate, you have the rotations separate, you have the vectoring is all, every form of electromagnetism manifest in the field geometry. Because mind you, this isn't coil geometry necessarily. This is field geometry. Okay. When you have your fields that run in all these ways, okay, you quickly realize that having that ground state is the ability to pull out of it, use and return, pull out, use and return. And the more you need, the more you pull. And the more you pull, the more it goes and the more it pumps. And that's just how it goes because it's working off of a bucket. It's allowing for the energy to reach a state of, we'll call it, it's not, but we're going to call it, we're allowing the energy to reach a state of rest potential, okay, before re-entering the system. And the draw is the differential between the positive and the negative and the hot and the cold. And that separation acts as the pulling force to keep the entire thing going. Now, so once you have a load pulled off, and Nathan and I kind of went back and forth before a little bit about maybe I need to think about this more. I'm not saying I'm right. But the idea here for me was that you could actually pull energy off of the 4.5 mark of this particular field. Okay. Basically, that's the water coming out of the hose before it fills the bucket.
But you have to do it at a 90 degree or 180 degree out of phase of the inner wave of it.
I think you missed the part, Joe. This thing is 180 degrees out of phase. It's like two separate coils. It's like two separate coils, 180 degrees out of phase, and the inside is the null zone or the still zone of a tornado. It's where all the energy is, but none of the everything else. You know what I mean? It's still, but it has all the energy.
So in this particular example, we'll say that there's a tornado at the top and the bottom, okay? But the center in between the 4.5 marks, okay, everything in between those 4.5 marks is just a bucket. And what is so if you think about it like water, it starts to make a lot of sense, right? If you fill the bucket with water and the water is running straight through whatever, it's keeping the cycle going, okay? But where it comes in at the top, okay, if you siphon off of that and the system's full and stable, right? You siphon off of that and then you use it, but it's all in resonance, so you're not having losses because you've broken locality. So you're not having the resistance and hysteresis losses that you would have otherwise, okay? Because it's all in resonance and it's already separate pieces, right? You're bringing it, you're using it, okay, cool. It did whatever its function was, and you return it. But where do you return it? See, you can't return it back to the system. You have to return it back to the well. All right, because what you borrow, you must put back, or else the system is not full. Okay, and what you borrow, you have to put back into a state of stillness and potential, because if you put it back, it's like connecting a fucking running hose to another hose section where it would be totally incoherent and blow the entire thing apart. It wouldn't function, right? Because whatever just got used out through the ass end of it is not the same as what's the purity of what's going in. It's already gone through multiple processes, right? So it needs to be able to go back into the bucket to then find its way to be reused, if you want to think about it like that. But what's the bucket? Why is there a surplus? It's because of capacitance. It has a certain capacitance value. So when you're taking off of it, as long as you ramp up everything slowly in your initial phase of tapping off of your energy from your 0 point energy source, right? As long as you ramp that up in a way that doesn't overwhelm the capacitance, it'll stay full. Okay? Because it has, it'll stay full. So this is the same exact reason why when you're looping something and you're not seeing energy losses, that the only way to use the extra energy that you find is to dump it off into a battery before you use it or something like that, because you can't use it straight off the source. You'll create incoherence.
Now, I just want to throw this out there. I gave Joe the analogy. This is what Gerald does. To do two coils 180 degrees out, it creates a center point that's a 0 point, which creates all the energy inside of it. You could tap out of the center coil all you want, but you cannot change the loop system that's going on, that's going back and forth doing work for free, like Floyd Sweet, all day long in residence. That's why it's important that it must have a load on it in order to pull it through faster. Without the load, it doesn't work, and you must have capacitors on both ends for balance. It's a lot of the same stuff.
Dead on. It's dead on. And that's why I was saying that you don't pull from the well, okay? Because the well,
Although it's full.
right? If you pull from the
You
well,
take from the
it's just
wave
emptying
on
it, allowing
top
it to
of the
dump
well.
in at a different rate, but it won't necessarily fill at a different rate. If you pull from the end of the at the end of the line, right before it enters into the well, if you pull from there, okay, all you're doing is pulling it through the system faster and harder if that's what you need. So the more that you add, the faster it pulls. The more that it sucks, the more that it goes because it's contained. And
The
that's
more
it.
that it sucks, the more that someone blows. I don't know.
The more that it sucks, the more that it blows, right? And again, because you're not having, and guess what? Systems like this wouldn't even necessarily be lost less, but their state of diffusion would be so low, that once you commit to the fact that you have some sort of power supply that can be regenerated by virtue of itself, okay? But you have to have some external power supply to actually run the thing in the first place, okay? It still falls into the locality that you just broke. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Okay. But the primary function of building it up to the point where it grows to be this level of efficiency, okay, has to be from an external source of energy. See? Then that external source of energy can continuously run this thing. Okay, said and done. Okay, but you don't make that connection until it's already up and going. And that's okay, because again, that's just creating a second well out, like that's still connected to the system. It's just throwing another yin into the yin yang. You know what I mean? It's just that's all it is at that point.
Well, you pull it from the battery to start it, and then you pull out of the center of it without connecting to anything, and you pull that into a capacitor, then back into a battery, and you can loop the system all day. They'll never drain the batteries out. Not if
Never,
you do
ever,
it right.
ever.
No.
As long as you change the symmetry, you can loop it no problem.
Yeah.
But the symmetry has to be changed.
So that is the symmetry change, by the way, is the battery, because everything else is symmetrical. Okay, so once you bring that you find the asymmetrical equilibrium points, which you could do using the nodes that are plotted out on the chart itself, you could actually sit there and hook your battery up to the correct locations in the circuit to get it going in the first place. And that's where the asymmetry comes in, because it's not going to be in the expected spots all the time. And I don't know. That's my 2 cents on it, I guess, if that's 2 cents.
I'd say that's a good 3, and I got a 4th to throw in, and maybe a 5th of some random, but parallel in many sense. If you want to pull it up, Nathan, of well, you'll see when. There we go. So again, with the color coordination, the how the numbers map out, but more than that one, there is this.
Yeah, that one was going in a 1:6:2 ratio.
Yeah, sorry. Here we go. So this one is good for showing the out of dimensional phase of the blue to the red to the green, that it's actually like you can see them as cubes, but that one side is 90 degrees to the other, and it's on a 1 degree or one dimensional plane, right? So they can be or they are the same planes on a cube, but they're in the opposite faces
Configuration. Yep.
of it.
Yeah, they're out of phase slightly.
Exactly. But they're in phase in that they're making up the same cube and in the same proportions. And then that is how you have the different wave interactions depending
Yep.
on their
So that's a
energy.
great point, by the way, that the fact that they are both in phase and out of phase simultaneously is exactly the phenomena that I described, okay, that exist with the creation of the third vectors. Because what happens is you go from a 9 count to a 10 count when you introduce the +1, okay, and that I stand by that logic. And what you notice is that anything that's divisible, that's a 9 as a I'm going to screw up my friggin' simple math terms. Quotient, I guess, right? 9 is a quotient that over 1 as a sum or whatever it is, right? Like is whole, okay, in terms of its fraction. Whereas under it's infinite, okay? But 10 is the inverse of that. So, you end up with this inverse relationship between 9 and 10 that switches at the value of 1. I don't know, but that's sort of how I've looked at it. That's why I never consider a whole value of a whole to necessarily be 1, because then what that allows is for asymmetric equilibrium, expanding the ability to fit new fraction sets into coherence. So that's where, when I talked about Tesla 369, I was talking about the relationship between 0.666 and 0.144. Okay. What falls dead in the center of them is Schumann's resonance, 7.83. And that's considering that a whole is a sum of 2. So, I'm not a mathematician or anything, but like these are, you play with these concepts and then you figure it out.
So I got another one up that shows the other portion of what you were talking about, because you just described the 369. Here we have the others adding up to the 9s, and there's your 4, 5 in the center. But the 1 and the 8 and the 2 and the 7, how they reflect and their interactions of the energies. And the inverse pump or part of the action or reaction.
Dead on, man. There's a relationship between them that based on the angle of interaction, exactly. That is inverse and equal, right? It's inverse and equal. And although every part of it's important, the switch points are probably the most important. So when you're talking about the 4 and the 5, are those transitional switch points.
And that's where you switch your dimensional angle of energy interactions.
Right. And let me ask you this logically. Remember what I just said about the 9 count transitioning to the 10 count by the extra vector? Follow what's going on here, right? 4 goes to the 8 is double, and 5 goes to the 1. And what is the 1 in that circumstance when it makes that connection to create the third vector? 10. See?
And it's got
the 9 count goes to the 10 count, the creation of the third vector. That's it. It's all mathematically sound,
we see the shapes right here, the squares with the different colors and mandalas. They show that
exactly.
all day long.
That's what it is. The mandalas are this encoded energy mapping, and that's what it's doing. That's why we have, hold on, we'll find it quickly. Right, come on. Just looking at it now, I can't find it. Son of a... But the ohm, right? The ohm cymatics. Here we go. I got it. I found it. We have a visual coming up. There and here of the mandalas, right? They were already they were programming. They knew what it was. That's why it was
Mhm.
metal foils of gold and silver in between the grains of sand, which is quartz and silica. And then you're resonating that ohm sound into that actual mandala of it that is its cymatic frequency. Oh, so it was called a tonoscope before. Tonoscope, same as cymatic. Um, and there you go, right? That
Mhm.
how is ohm? And oh, it's not labeled here, but this is the ohm. So, oh yeah, there it is, sound of ohm, and that's your Om Shri Mantra mandala. How did they know? Because they were
That's right.
already programmed in that.
Well,
That's
and
part of the magic.
there's certain tones and frequencies that are going to respond to that, and then other tones and frequencies that are going to alternatively and counter respond to that. So you could actually control your propagation, okay, based on the tone that you're giving. Because once you induce the resonance of those tones into that conductor, it's either going to push or pull.
Mhm.
Right, and there's your initial pumps of the hot and cold that are 90 degrees of each other, and then there's the third that's the additional out of phase, but just showing how the numbers actually uh, how it's a much greater coding and geometry and essentially numerical quantum or geometric coding system that exists, and it's how energy flows. And within the numbers, you have hot and cold, and the infinite oscillation between the two.
For certain. I mean, once you realize that numbers are really just ways to derive relationship between things, and you stop thinking them as like a count, you know, you start to understand what the relationships actually are. Um, but the way that we use numbers as human beings for a very practical sense of day-to-day life. But when you're looking at mathematics, it's all just about the relationship between the numbers, and not only what um, relationship exists from one to the other, but what is in between. Okay, and there's very, very, very fascinating things to be found in between, because that's where your fractions ultimately lie most of the times. So again, it comes down to not what's measurable and seen, but what isn't. You know,
By the way, that square pattern shows up on the oscilloscope in a three-dimensional tube. It goes like this, and then they all cross the lines like that. As soon as you blur out your oscilloscope, it shows up perfectly, and it only shows up in resonance.
That's amazing. That
and there's your layering of modes too, which is
exactly right.
well, it's missing a scalar vector, but yeah.
Well, the scalar is the third.
Well, yeah, but that's
Because your
cyclical.
original vector is the first dimension going forward. Then you have the heat wave going.
Oh, I didn't see. You know what? It's very small on my screen. I didn't see the arrow going up. That is your scalar vector, correct?
Yes, sir. It's all divine proportions. And the alchemists knew.
Beautiful. All related. Hey, Bernie, I know you said that you wanted to see the color interactions.
Yeah.
Maybe Nathan could pull that up. I sent it to you so you could explore it more, and we could talk about it, and then present it at another time too, because it's going to be hard. But Nathan, would you mind putting up like one of the black background ones with like the colors just generally? And I'll tell you what I did, so that way you can again interpret it as you may. Okay. All right. So what I did here, so you understand, okay, is it's the same thing with the Ankhed, okay, except I made the colors, okay, relevant to what is doing. All right. So for instance, 1, 2, 4, okay, is red. Okay, then the 4 to 8 is orange. The 7, I'm sorry, the 8, 7, 5 is yellow, and then the 5 to 1 is orange. Okay, so you see what I did there, right? Then you have
Yes.
blue, okay, for just your the 3-6 vector, okay, and then you have purple for the for the center vector in the Ankh, okay. So that's what that was. Then what I did was that was only on one side. Okay, now when I threw it 180 degrees out of phase, and reversed it, I also photo negative the colors. Okay, and what that does is truly shows you the relationship. Okay, because if you're trying to visualize this, it's not enough to just inverse the visual aid that's broken down in colors just based on this part, that part. You need to see the different parts broken down, but then inversed onto themselves. And what you end up seeing is the interaction as it really is. And what you end up seeing is that what was red on this side, well, a lot of it turned orange. A lot of it turns orange. Why? Because it's in equilibrium. And if this was a perfect diagram, and I will make a perfect diagram, I just didn't have time, where you see the overlays perfect, the entire thing will turn solid colors because it's in equilibrium. Because once you've inversed it one way, but then you inverse the color also, okay, that's showing you what it falls into. And it'll always fall into the equilibrium state. But you got to mind something. These things are not separate of one another. They are only that way by virtue of combination. There was transparency at work here too that I tried to do, whatever. Like I said, I'll get it worked out properly so you can visualize it. But the idea here is that you're not going to have you're going to have zoning, all right, except it's going to be equilibrium zoning. So the zoning is going to grow out and be major and macroscopic.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And what this key is that you're making and why I'm so understanding and on point with what you're doing is that I will be able to use it as the key of with Walter Russell's periodic tables, and then what octave an element is breaking down to or combining with the atomic masses when phase shifting and doing fusion reactions through the harmonic oscillations. The equilibrium zones that you're speaking of is where the elements or the compounds, whatever is going to turn out, are going to naturally go to. And depending on what color the molecule or the element was to begin with, and then what's coming off of it, you'll be able to calculate exactly what it will become every time on Walter Russell's reaction charts.
Amen.
Nice.
Now, throw this in there. If I were to have done this perfectly, which I did not, okay, with the color interactions, and then you realize that each of these colors also aligns with your chakras, and that the nodal points are also exactly in line with your chakras. What you'll realize is that your green, being your heart chakra, will turn white. Just saying. It's points of interaction. Why? Because everything crosses through that zone. And when you have the point where everything crosses through but does not necessarily interact, and you look at it from an outside perspective, they appear to be mixed. And you would get white out of that equation. So I'm just throwing that one out there. And again, I'll show it better. So
I
it's
get
properly
what
aligned.
I fully get that. And it's the white light that is the full light that you're able to phase shift from one one element to another, or one energy or one boundary into another.
When you put this over the Earth 8 times, or I should say 4 times, doubled, okay, and you put it over the Earth like that, the world's population falls in between. Yeah, there you go. And mind you, again, I'm going to say it again, not the scale and not taking into account for the curvatures. Okay, so this is not accurate, but you could get an idea. You know, all your population falls right in line with basically the circle where the null zone is and the top. The bottom is far less active because it's in a diffuse state. That's just how that goes. When you look at where certain major intersections of the lines all go, they all approximate major locations on this planet. Washington, D.C., because
The
they
ley
knew.
line, the ley
So
line.
these are the ley lines.
It's all ley lines. Rome, China, and one of the places that came up surprisingly in China was a cave where all these ancient texts were found. And Buddhist texts, but also multi-religion texts, because they had been using that cave and it had been lost to time. And then they found it, and it was like 1,500 years old, last used when they found it, back in like 1900, but it had been used for millennia. And that falls right in the dead center of one of these circles, in the mountains of China, where all these caves are, and certain spots in Japan and stuff like that. Like I said, all these world population centers, the most prosperous places in the world, or places of power, all fall on specific lines or very close to, that are drawn based on this geometry. And what I found interesting is that what you would predict to be the equator, even though it's asymmetric, is not. Okay. You would, and again, it's out of scale, so it is different, okay, mind you. But you would believe the equator to be the center of the entire reaction, but it's not. The Earth's on a fucking tilt, right? This takes into account the Earth's tilt without even doing it, because that's just how it goes. It doesn't care where the closest point of the sun is. It's caring where the center of the sphere is off the axis. So where you would predict the equator is, it's not. The equator is actually on the bottom scalar line. And just about all humanity population, for the most part, falls within those scalar lines.
Interesting.
It's very interesting. That's what I'm saying. It's crazy. There's almost no population, aside from Australia, for the most part, that falls outside of the scalar lines. And then Australia, they just have all sorts of weird animals there. So who knows?
Just blame it on that. Yeah. Huh. Bunch of weird stuff going on there. Not
Have
on
weird people too.
That's it. Their toilets flush reverse and upside down.
Yeah.
Oh, take my guns. It's good for me.
Oh,
Yes, Queen.
what would
Oh,
Canada
wait, you're
do
Canadian.
if-
My bad. That was an insult to you, too.
Oh, hold on. What would the Canadians do if those states or whatever fall back down to the U.S.? What do they do to get gun rights? They'd be like all tripped out. They don't have guns in Canada, do they?
Yeah.
Well, we do. You have to
Yeah.
get an FAC license, and then go through the bullshit process of getting a license to carry. But most of it's just for guys that are hunters, right?
And in Alberta, there's a lot of hunters, let me tell you.
Well, we ain't got it 100% straight here yet either. I'm waiting on the Supreme Court to straighten that stuff out, because, man, they gave me the long dick of the law straight in the ass.
Yes, they did.
Yes, they did.
Wow. Went from geometry to that. Man, we just
Well, I
Yeah, in a
got
matter
some more
of
geometry
seconds.
to put up.
Hey, listen, man. If there's anything I'm passionate about, it's that. And that was before anything ever happened to me. I'll have to tell that story another day. That's a story for another day. I'm not getting involved in that right now.
Yeah, we'll get back to the colors and the geometry and the chakra if you want to bring up that picture there, Nathan. Yeah,
yeah.
because it kind of ties right in to what I was trying to explain and what Joe was explaining.
You guys have been on for 3 hours.
They have.
I've only
Yeah.
been on for 2 in my defense.
Oh, okay.
And Bernie's only been on for 1.
Hey, I was on a 2-hour call with Perone before this. All right.
I get it.
But
Did
yeah.
Perone figure out that the Anki's into the into the Rodin? Anyway.
That's why I came here, because
Yeah, I love you. I'm just breaking chops.
But yeah, we got the sound, we got the octaves, and we got the geometry of it. And this is how
Now,
the
I got a
sound.
question for you guys. Based on, say, a certain tone, like 528 hertz, when you do the cymatics and it makes that the actual image of that frequency, how about building a coil exactly shaped like that to scale?
Yeah, I like the sounds of that.
Well,
Based
I
in
mean,
Okay.
the
yes and
geometry
no,
or
because
the
you got to
energy
remember it's
pattern?
field geometry.
Yeah,
Sorry,
so
Nathan.
if you want to bring up this one, I think it ties into it.
But is it the energy pattern or is it the geometry?
The actual energy pattern that it creates when you create that vibration at 528 hertz, it creates that actual image, right?
Yeah,
So if you get like the transducer on the black plate and you pour the salt on it, and then you turn the sound on to 528 hertz, it makes that geometrical pattern. My idea is, why don't you build a coil based on that geometrical shape of 528 hertz?
Well, so that's exactly where what I just presented ties right in, because it has to
Mhm.
do with field geometries, okay? And it's giving you a map of the nodal planes that and how they interact. So as long as you could control your interaction of the nodal planes through your vectoring, then you could create the standing wave patterns that coincide. And it's not fixed. That's the thing about it, is that because it's geometrically higher dimensional, the wave patterns that form, all the nodal planes for the most part, a lot of them fall inside of the internal geometries, right? So, you would just have to vector your energy in the way to create the nodal planes that you want.
Right.
And the coil would not, or if that's the context that we're talking, this coil, the coil would not necessarily look exactly like it. It would resemble it, but probably in a more obscure way.
No, it would,
That's the next part of the puzzle for me.
instead of a geometry coil, you get a dream catcher. They're visualizing the energy in amplification.
Yeah.
That's what the dream catcher is. So instead of doing the geometry portion, you'd get that. But some of the other stuff that you're talking about, because there's little things that show up that are like little circles like this, you know what I mean? Like a little tiny bit, and it does it again, and it does it again. They show up in cymatics. I don't know that you can get that into a coil.
Well, that's why I said that this isn't necessarily a
See,
coil
like right here, you
equation,
can
it's
see
a
'em.
field geometry equation. So in certain circumstances, you may need multiple components creating their own electromagnetic influence in a interaction zone in order to create the patterns that are required. So it would become more of an array as opposed to a single component.
Right. So take like the image on the left. Okay, so you got the outside diameter. That would be one circuit signal. And then on the inside, you would probably make those lines starting from the center point out and spider them out all the way around. That would be circuit number 2. And then when you turn your frequency generator on, you would use a 2-channel, and you would focus the energy at the same wavelength for both.
I love that idea.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't hate that at all.
hold
I
on.
think that what it boils down to is that most of this, if you have two inverse electromagnetic coils, okay, that start off in a current state, right? So there'd have to be a lead that if you have them facing each other, that's going to create at least the first two vectors to create the third, okay, to then be able to shift the parts around. Then whatever you kind of put in it from there, will fall into sync with at least that initial geometry, because again, the goal is always kind of the same. No matter what geometry you're looking for, it's you need to square the circle, and to square the circle, you need the triangle. So you need all the modes. Once you have all the modes, then you can start moving the pieces around as far as where they're hitting. So all those points at the center that show in the geometry that I drew out with the Rodin stuff and then the Ankh stuff, you could actually move those nodal points all over the place, but you need to have the initial geometric shape before you do that.
Okay, real quick, Bernie, go back several of them. Up there. Where was that picture we started talking on this subject on? With the 432 and stuff like that.
I think it was that one.
Okay, right there. Go back to the 432.
Okay. There we go.
I just when you see something like that, okay, let me do this because there's a reason to see it. So I'm gonna pull that one down and I'm gonna put let's see.
Well, while you're doing that, sorry, Eric said something awesome. Eric Kalon.
Right? I'm digging that.
He says, my girlfriend, she was playing with 432 and 528 tuning forks. She rang them, and they stuck together like magnets. They wouldn't pull apart. Crazy, right? But what does it mean? Well, what it means is that they're in coherence, and like parts, that vibrate the same like that, they attract. That's how coalescence occurs of like substances. So that is the force that you experience there. It's wild, and it's all because they're analogous.
One's in coherence, one's in distortion, and that's what makes the opposites. This right here is how we're going through our solar system. You have the sun, and then each one of those is a pattern on the outside of it. What you'll find is the pattern at the very top of the longest elliptical orbit was actually, if I can do this, and I put this one back up, right there on your left, 432. The outside ring matches the actual orbit that it goes into. And where they come into a point like this, okay, at the bottom, this is what Sheila was trying to get to when she's making things that look like this, okay, is that's your geometry pattern. At the very bottom, you just move from that one to the next point to the next point, and it makes a geometrical pattern of what's going on. So when you see this, the reason they have extra energy is because the solar system itself is producing that energy at those frequencies based on how they move throughout the galaxy.
That's right.
And that's what the ancient alchemists spent so much time on documenting, and not just alchemists, all the megalithic stone astral calendars, alignments, and architecture was all about measuring and watching that.
That's right.
using it.
And everything's in alignment with that. And that has a lot to do with just, you know, you want to talk about like bringing into horoscopes and why you are the way that you are and setting salts and all that. Well, there you go. It all has to do with the energies at play at the time of your, you know, prenatal development, you know.
Well, it's you're saying coherence distortion. That thing about the 432 and 444. If you see them as what creates the atoms to stick together, it's the coherence between them. It's all the like stuff. You know what I mean? When they get stuck together, but when you add distortion to it, you're pulling them apart, and you're allowing that energy to amplify inside there, but you're reducing the density of the object itself. That's the key to everything. That's why bridges go out of whack and funky with resonance, because you're creating that distortion within inside that pulls the atoms apart at the fundamental level. That's where resonance works. It's not the vibration on your table; it's right there.
Right, so right. Resonance in that context is reverberation, in that, you know, because it's not destructively interfering. It's falling in line with itself. Therefore, it's amplifying. And once the amplitude of the amplification comes into play, that's all of a sudden, you know, what's this turns into this, because that's the amplitude. That's exactly what amplitude is.
But that's the thing. To get anti-gravity, you're just short of pulling atoms apart. That's all you're doing, is you're separating them at a distance so they can't create density. So when you pull them apart, they lose everything to the earth because they cannot hold it in. The energy's in a different place. It's no longer together where they cross the all the zones between them. They can't do it anymore, so they pull slightly apart. And once they do, it loses everything to the earth because it can no longer stay in that state. So you'll see bridges just go like this, man, and fly up and down, and then you'll see things just disintegrate.
Well, I mean, right, and what you said is actually pretty damn key, because that's entirely the point, is the bringing about of the great energy through the separation of differentials, right? So when you break apart the two things that usually melt together to cancel each other out, you break them apart, but then you bring them into, you know, a reverse flow with each other, non-deconstructively. All you get is the weird effects of it all. So then the gravity doesn't make sense. So then all of a sudden, yeah, now the amplitude can increase because the resistance isn't there. See, the resistance usually keeps it in check. But what's the resistance? The resistance is something of one kind banging into its opposite and going into a diffuse state. But once you've already separated out all the opposites, it has nothing of the opposite to bang up into. It's just running parallel to it. There you go. That's it. That's the chart. That's what you said. That's the whole 9 yards. That's the RAV, by the way. Which, by the way, I guess I want to put it out there now. We got 30 people on our channel watching, people on Bernie's channel watching. We're doing our normal Friday show. And then I believe it's 9 or 10 o'clock my time. Not certain. Have to look. I'm going to be doing the recording, I hope, of the presentation of the RAV on the Demystify side channel, provided that my name gets picked out of a hat, because of evidently having an air produced in atmospheric pressure, self-contained cavitative resonant plasma, you know, in order for you to say that in 60 seconds and have a shot at that audience, I need to leave it to luck and chance. But, you know, fuck it, that's the world, and that's what I'm going to do. And, you know, I look forward to that opportunity. You know what I mean? Like, I look forward, and that's not a live thing, by the way. They pre-record that, so it won't air Friday night. But I'm just saying, like you know, imagine the world we live in where that's what we have going on. We have the evidence of it all. We have all the video. We have the infrared data. We have all the waveforms that are slightly out of phase, ever so slightly. We have all the dimensionality circumstances at hand, and I have to have my name picked out of a hat. So That is what it is.
The way
But
she
you know,
goes. The way she goes.
it's the way she goes. And listen, I'm not
For
bitter about the
any,
situation. I just think it's absurd.
I'm bitter about it. I'm bitter. Just like,
Well-
come on, get this. Anyways,
Well, Lord willing, my name will get picked out of the hat. And then in 60 seconds, I will say the most convoluted thing that they've
There you
ever heard in their entire life with all of the right buzzwords. And when they're like, huh, what? And they ask me about it, it's going to be like, oh, now we could talk in plain English. Perfect. You know, like, what do you want?
pretty much.
I'm very excited about the rap, man. That is the thing. That is the thing. I will tell you. I believe.
Yeah, well, I spent a lot of money. You know what I mean? Trying to get all the stuff.
Sean tried to get me on board with that. I'm like, bro, I'm going to stick to theory. Keep on sending me your data. I will analyze. Thank you.
Yeah, well, that sucker for things. You know what I mean? Build things all the time.
Oh, welcome to the world of self-funding.
Yeah,
Is what it is.
it's so funny, man. How many coils can I sell to build more stuff in my garage? That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, you find another person that could literally go through a video and then see something and be like, oh, that's not what it is. Let me look closer. And then you realize that your reflection lens flare builds up on the surface, just beneath the surface of the clay, and you could see it. And then as soon as the thing forms, it peels off of the clay in 3 dimensions. It literally peels off of the clay in 3 dimensions. And then maintains a relationship with the lens, because that's how you can see it. But as soon as you look away a little bit or something like that, all of a sudden, the entire dimensionality of the object you're looking at shifts to its form in a 3-dimensional fashion with all the geometry that that's absolutely inverse of what you're looking at, with no mechanism of it being mirrored. It's absolutely wild. This is it.
Yeah,
This is
I
it.
agree.
This is the goods.
Yeah, it's the next level stuff. And Sean says he's already got 2 next to each other, so I want to see how far he got with that.
Yeah, man. This is it. One more and we'll be, disappearing airliners.
Oh man.
Which, by the way, I didn't send you this picture, but on the Discord, Wahoo put up a post that was another Egyptian thing, and it was like an eagle, who had like 2 orbs in his talons,
Mm-hmm.
and then 1 orb above his head. So in response to that, I sent him a picture of the jet with the 3 orbs around, and I was like, "See, you know what I mean?" That's funny.
Nice.
I don't know. I have a terrible sense of humor.
Oh man. Yeah, well, I'll stay away from that one, man. Huh. Stay away from that war going on over there.
What war is that? What am I missing?
Oh, nothing. I don't even want to say it.
All right, that's fine. Tell for another day.
It's all good, man. Dude, it's been like 3.5 hours, man. I think we're about done here today. You guys got anything going on?
Well, I just got back from the trip. I'm trying to get myself organized and plan my attack for the next week. I've been shadow banned like really, really bad this time on YouTube,
Ooh.
and yeah, they're shoving it where the sun don't shine.
Huh. Wow. I'm surprised because you started that new project that you're working on.
Yep. Second I started that project, my yep, I got shadow banned
Wow.
big time. Yeah, I lost about 70,000 views. Yeah,
Really?
yep. in about 1 week.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah, they just butchered me. So
Huh.
I'm trying to figure out how to get it back. So
I just keep dropping those shorts, man. Those short little videos. They
well,
like that.
normally that helps, but this time, nope. The algorithm's not having it.
Nothing, huh?
Nope.
I'm
You
sorry,
can-
Mike.
Yeah, you can always go into the little AI thing that's in your backstage and ask them,
Yep.
hey, did something go on with my channel or what? Because I'm losing views. Sometimes they'll, if you find a nice person, they'll turn it back on.
Yeah, maybe I'll try that.
Yeah, they
See
do it
what
for
happens.
certain videos and stuff. If you have something that just goes up and up and up and then falls off a cliff, I
Yeah.
mean, something happened in their algorithm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like every single one of my videos. It's kind of strange.
I'm there with you guys, man. My views went. As soon as
Yeah,
I
the second I start, after the first week I start doing the Howard Johnson thing, boom, right off a cliff.
Yeah, there's definitely throttling going on. I mean, if Bernie's channel is a prime example of throttling, I mean, it's wild, man. You've had the same number of subs and shit, but
For
over a year.
4 years. 4 years.
That's crazy.
Oh, they love you, Bernie. They love you.
Oh yes.
And
they-
not for anything, for the topics that we're covering, especially on this channel, and I'm not saying that doesn't apply to you guys too, but like for the stuff that we're covering, I mean, this is stuff that like other content creators, have a lot of the same subject matter, but none of the same information on, and they'll get views all day. So I don't really know.
Yeah, all
You
the
know what?
bullshit videos.
I do, because the other creators, they put out disinformation and make when the rare times that they do actually do builds and experiments, they intentionally reproduce it wrong so it doesn't work, and they somehow get hundreds of thousands and millions of subscribers,
Yeah,
and
that's
also
right.
get all of the advertisement funding as well behind them, and it's like, I wonder
Yep,
why.
they like pushing the bullshit.
Hey, we should all become bullshit artists, shave our beards, put on a suit, and start, just give them the gibberish. Like, just give them all the math gibberish, everything. Just do full on guess it all the way through the whole thing like they do, and just use the same
Hey.
triangles and squares for the math, and people will be
We'll
so
just
informed.
we'll just all turn into electro boom, and we'll just like start frying ourselves every time we do a video.
Well, listen, if you're a putz about it, every time you fry yourself, you go, don't, like Homer Simpson. You know what I mean? Like,
Right?
and that's
Electro
perfect.
boom.
Then you're in the club.
But that's like the prime example. How does a guy that still hasn't figured out how to not shock himself, right? Like to this day, when he's been doing it for 10 years straight, how is he the authority of what to do? It's like that's literally the example of what not to do. But, it's
All right, listen, I'm going to say it at 3 hours and 33 minutes. Okay, into this. And I'm reluctant to say it, but I'm going to. There's certain big names out there, and I'm not going to name names, who I appreciate the content in which they create, no matter how I feel about them particularly, right? Who are literally, have the answers, and we know that they have the answers, and they're putting the carrot at the end of the string, and just literally having everybody chase that carrot to keep that money coming. And I'm going to say it because at the end of the day, the entire thing's been proven out. That person has seen it. That person will not talk about it or show it, and they've seen it with their eyeballs, and they realize something is that some mysteries are just great as mysteries, because mysteries and asking the questions keeps the donations coming. So keep the donations coming. Keep it coming.
And
Why
don't
not?
give out useful, actionable information ever.
That's it. Well, no, it's not even that, because you know what? The information is relevant many times, related,
But is it
but it
actionable?
shows nothing. But it shows nothing ever.
Exactly. Not
Shows
actionable.
nothing ever. It's a whole bunch of words written by somebody with no anything to show it. And when it's shown, well, that kind of ruins it for you, doesn't it? Because now, what are you going to do? Just talk about how it's a conspiracy? Well, everybody knows it's a fucking conspiracy. Like, that's, we'll add that to the list. You know what I mean? Of other conspiracies and shit. Who cares? But the mystery of it and pursuing the science, well, that makes money. So, you know, keep on booyahing and yahtseeing all you fucking want. Because guess what? We said we had it, we showed it to you, and crickets. So,
I got an idea.
booyah!
We'll make a redneck hydrogen collider. We'll just shoot basketballs around something, man, and call it a collider. Yeah, maybe play some
Freaking
pong in
love
there or something, and we'll make some money. And we'll just
A
stand in the
redneck
center
reactor.
and then disappear and reappear as a monster or something and run out. Dude, it'd be great.
God, yes.
Redneck
Yes.
reactor. Just fill up a balloon with hydrogen and just let it off.
Oh yeah, we could do people on the roof, man, putting green goo and throwing it at us. Oh yeah, it'd be perfect. Yeah, create everything out of there.
There's so many bad
I
things that I could say that I'm not gonna.
Yeah, because we
Oh,
focus
man.
on getting to the bottom of the mysteries. And there was comment about atmospheric electricity, and I just wanted to end with this one as I got to get going soon. But this is a classic here. If you want to pull it up, Nathan.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have well, look at that. At a time they're supposed to not know about electricity, they're measuring and documenting how you get the atmospheric differentials and the strength of it. And then it's like, what do we have going on right here? And it's very, very interesting, the coded information you get. And this is from a 1500s French or German science book, I believe.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
Bernie, you want something interesting? Look up the St. Louis Arch, the weather patterns before it, and then after it.
I believe that. All right. I got my homework.
That's it. It's blow your mind, man.
I'll look forward to it. Much love. Appreciate all of you, and we'll see you again soon.
Oh, brother.
Y'all catch you later, Bernie.
yep. Take care.
So, Mike, you doing your show on Friday?
Yep. Yep. As normal. 9:00 Eastern, 6:00 Pacific. And yeah, we'll be doing our usual shenanigans. We should have everybody.
You should have
back.
seen it one night, Joe. We made the space station into a 7-Eleven.
Oh yeah, he missed
Oh,
that.
That
Oh,
episode
that was
was the
an
best, dude.
Oh man, I'm upset that I missed that. I'm gonna have to look back. When was that? 2 weeks
that
ago?
was a
was
couple
what-
months ago.
No,
A month ago? Oh shit.
no, it's longer than that. It was almost a year ago we did that.
Yeah, maybe it was. Maybe like 5
Yeah, it was
months
a
ago.
year ago. Yeah,
Was it a year?
What?
Yeah, I think closer to a year ago. Yeah.
Well, I think we might need to do that again, just for
Oh, dude, we were
nostalgia
shooting.
purposes.
Yeah, we had to stick
with your.
we had to stick Gerald in the rubber room.
Hey
Oh,
man.
He loses his shit and you throw him in there.
Hey, well, listen. Well, the topic is hot, and I know that we haven't wrapped up yet. But Nathan, if you want to drop the Discord again in the chat for anybody that wants to join, I mean, it's already kind of a little bit late here, but after we wrap up here, I'll hop on there. Any discussions you guys want to have, amongst yourselves, or if you have any questions for me, I'll hop on there for a little bit. if there were any pressing thoughts or things that you wanted to talk about, on the Alpha Omega, make myself available for that for a little bit.
Right on. Oh
Cool,
man.
cool.
I'll be cooking dinner, but you'll deal. I mean, it's like 8:40 here, so you're gonna deal.
Yes. Yeah,
Nice.
same time here. Yeah, I had a great trip in Alberta, and I'll talk about that Friday night as well. I had some interesting experiences climbing up the dunes there in the Alberta Badlands. I was getting electrostatic shocks like you wouldn't believe going up the mountain.
Leave that.
Right on, man.
And I had rubber shoes, I had rubber soles on. I was still getting lifters.
Just you couldn't avoid it, huh?
No, I was swimming through it.
Wow.
With the dryness, well, because the dryness of the air, and then you got all that rock formations with all that crystallization and all the different layers, and God knows there could have been friggin' uranium in there for all I know. No, I'm dead serious. Like we're talking some ancient rocks here.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're talking like we're going back 65 million years of history in these rock formations. Yeah, because a lot of the dinosaurs were at that museum were pulled out of that rock formation that I was climbing up.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. Did they have like a museum there with all that?
Yeah. It's called the Terrell Museum. It's about an hour and a half northwest of Calgary, and it's to date it's probably the best dinosaur museum hands down that I've ever been to.
Nice.
And
Really cool.
I've seen a few. Yeah, kick ass, man. 2 stories of incredible fossils and anything you can imagine. They had it there. It's pretty incredible stuff.
Now, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that Alberta is where you went, right? So,
Yeah.
like those areas where you're just talking about, like the oldest like geometric formation. So, like the western end of the Canadian Shield,
Right.
and where all that exposure is, there's a lot of calcitic dolomite.
Yeah.
And why that's significant is how it's structured. And I want to take a moment to actually delve there because it's really, really fascinating.
I could feel the energy there, like literally climbing up that side of that dune. The hair on my arms was standing straight up, and then I walk up three or four steps. I touch the banister. They had like a banister going up the side of the mountain. I touch it and whack, get zapped.
Wow.
So check this out. So the primary formation that's there of all that earliest sediment, right?
Right.
That's solidified. It's very, very, very porous, and it's very, very, very soluble. Okay, under certain circumstances. Okay, and the certain circumstances part is critical because what ends up happening is as the time goes on, and that was actually below at one time, right? There's a lot of different solutions that were actually fully permeating that surface. Okay, and in certain instances, you'd have a decalcification of that porous structure, leaving just the dolomite. The dolomite itself resonates at a very certain frequency that actually leads to, unusual deposition of other elements and crystals, right? Which is why you have a lot of ore that comes out of there, like you said. And when I say unusual, I mean you nailed it with uranium. I mean that's primary, a number one thing that's sort of there, but that comes along with a lot of other stuff. But you got to remember that these elements, especially the radioactive ones, are simply higher energy forms of more depleted versions. Gold being one of them, but lead being another, right?
Probably tritium is in there too.
Tritium, you're right. So whenever you have these energetic depositions that occur within a porous substrate, your secondary depositions that occur with it, that would be your more common depositions, don't form in the same ways, and they form in coherence with their environment, being the radioactive environment.
Right.
So what ends up happening is you have anomalous reconstruction of otherwise common crystal forms that have entirely different attributes to that which you're typically used to, and when formed in conjunction with all these other modes of energy production and output, they basically hold in the chaotic state in which they are formed, meaning that like even stuff that would normally be irradiated in normal circumstance, like quartz, okay, could ultimately hold like an internal radioactive charge that doesn't necessarily manifest the way that we're used to in terms of outward radiation, which means that you could have lattice structures that are aligned with that have entirely different attributes than a perfectly clear piece of like simple quartz, for instance. So it's something to bear in mind about that particular region. That's what's been going on there, because that is, like you said, the oldest rock on Earth, but it's also been the most long-term exposed to environmental atmospheric differential as well. It's been here for a very long time above the ocean, is what I'm saying, right? So it's something to bear in mind. It's weird. It's weird stuff.
Well, if you ever get a chance, like stupid me, I should have brought my Geiger counter with me, but I don't know how that would fly going through airport security.
Yeah,
even though that it was,
it's on an international flight. I mean, like
even though
you
it's a
put it in
domestic
checking.
flight, right?
Oh, good thing you weren't hiding the rocks in your ass, man. It'd be going off all day.
Really?
You go to the airport and it's like guys
sir, it's like, sir, your package is like hot. Oh my god.
You gotta love if it accidentally like flipped in on your check-in, it'd be like that like Chernobyl sound, like
Just put an AM radio beside it and listen to all the crackling noise happening on it.
It's so great.
But like the one I have is like, a little bit smaller than a cell phone, right? But it works. It can pick up radiation, right? So I should have brought it. Stupid me. I regret not bringing it.
Well, I love that you got together with Bernie, man. That was awesome. And
yeah, it was cool, man. It was really cool going up there. Not just like, it's just the whole experience of going through the, Banff and all the mountain range. I've seen mountains before, but not like this. Like this, whole new level of huge, right? And the water was mind blowing. Water doesn't even look real.
Welcome to America, Albertans. Keep on pushing.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Once you take away all their resources, they're gonna come with you.
Our prime minister's doing a freaking stellar job, isn't he?
I can't even keep track of it anymore, man, because I stopped feeling bad for you once you had the opportunity to get rid of Trudeau, and then you just replaced it with Trudeau.
The level of stupid is just beyond comprehension.
Yeah, you're on par with California. We keep getting rid of the morons to hire bigger morons.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it. Yep. Hire a moron. We got plenty of them.
I don't know. I keep on seeing these like Al Barry cartoons, man. Which are, if you've never seen Al Barry, you gotta look that up. It's dead on. It's so funny. It's all political stuff, but they talk about Gavin Newsom all the time, and it's hilarious. Him and like Maxine Waters sitting there and like it's awful, talking back and forth. He's like, well, I have all the experience to run for president in 2028. He's like, I run the fourth largest economy in the world. It's like into the ground, but I run. He's like, he's like, it basically runs itself.
Well, dude,
He's like, this isn't a good look. How am I going to explain this? I ruined it. It basically runs itself, and I ruined it.
In Ontario, in Ontario, I feel like it's a goddamn free fall.
oh, dude, we got a congressman that slept with a spy for quite a long time. Little feng action going on there.
Well,
Heard about that.
provocateur.
And then, dude, he rips a big
The
old fart in
Chinese spy.
Congress. Yeah,
The
dude,
Chinese.
Well,
he did, and then he just ripped a big old fart in Congress, dude. It's like, he's talking like all nonchalant, and all of a sudden, right out of his ass, dude, loud as hell. And it's like, dude, that's what we have to be proud of in California. We got a guy that fucking goes to the spy and then busts ass in the fucking Congress.
Well, Nathan, you know why he farted, don't you?
Oh man,
Because he didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we don't know that. He might have given it a shit, but he probably kept it on the down low,
Yeah, he probably held it in, waddled to the bathroom. Wore the brown pants that day.
Nathan, learn to swim, brother. Learn to swim.
Wow, not in that pile of dew. I just think it's funny, dude. I don't care what side you're on. You bust ass in Congress, dude. You deserve to get laughed at forever.
Yeah, truth. All right, on that note, folks, I'm going to be bidding you adieu.
See you guys.
And I'm going to cook some dinner, and I'll see you at Discord.
All right, guys, I just want to say real quick before we take off, thank you, Ulysses, for 5 Old Man Bill's memberships. I want to thank you very much, man. You're awesome, brother. Thank you guys for hanging out with us in the chat, man. And it's been a long show, and you guys are right there with us the whole way. So thank you very much, and everybody have a great night.
Peace and love.
Cheers, guys.
The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man builds. The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put him in the red. Where conscious and spirituality been stricken from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds.